Chapter 1320. Some experts of the primordial races could not dodge in time, and were grabbed by the divine phoenix's claws. They were either torn into two or burned to ashes by the divine flames. Among them, a mighty figure of the bloodvine race was also burned to ashes by the terrifying divine flames on the divine phoenix's claws. The bloodvine race was a spirit formed from plants to begin with, and flames were the most lethal to them. Although the bloodvine race was one of the primordial 9 races, and ordinary flames could not hurt them. The flames that were burning were the flames of the divine phoenix. Even the sun god fire was suppressed by the divine phoenix's flames. This was a complete suppression of strength. The divine phoenix's claws cleared the path ahead and divine flames surged. The primordial 6 races dodged one after another, not daring to face it head-on. In the blink of an eye, the true bodies of the dragons had already returned to the side of Qinglian's true body. The divine phoenix's claws danced, and repelled a few primordial races that were attacking Qinglian's true body. The true bodies of the dragons were already exhausted after charging over. Blood flowed profusely from the wound on their chests and scattered on the ground. Su Zimo's 2 true bodies gathered, and prepared to leap into the pitch-black dermic power vortex to escape. The black-haired essence spirit was tainted with the life-severing curse, and Qinglian's true body's face was a little withered. She was not in a good state. He could not linger here. At that moment, Misty Peak, 100 Refinement Sect, and other sects that were related to Su Zimo had already left. As for Yen Beichen, he had already disappeared from Su Zimo's sight as he chased after heavenly secrets. He could not care less, and could only take Night Spirit away first. "We can't let them escape," the remaining experts of the primordial races hollered, and attacked one after another. In order to kill Night Spirit this time round, the primordial 6 races mobilized close to 1,000 experts, and the weakest among them was at the Dharma characteristic realm. However, it was acceptable that more than 100 of them died in the process of chasing after Night Spirit. But now, there were only slightly more than 100 experts of the primordial 6 races left. Such a huge loss had never happened since the ancient war. Given the foundation of the primordial 6 races, it was nothing much for those experts to die. However, apart from facing the ancient emperors, the experts of the primordial 6 races had never encountered such a huge setback. The reason why the primordial races chose to walk out of the forbidden grounds in this era was because they had a premonition that the providence of the human race was declining. The chance for them to regain control of Tianhuang mainland had arrived. However, he did not expect that the experts of the primordial races would suffer such a blow as soon as they appeared. They were almost completely wiped out. They absolutely could not accept this result. He had to kill Daolord Araki Takeshi and the primordial taboo. Woo woo woo. The remaining members of the Heaven-Eyed tribe opened their heaven-eyed eyes and unleashed their full power. Streaks of black light tore through the air and struck toward the dragon's true bodies, Qinglian's true body and Night Spirit. The remaining experts of the Protoss bloodvine race, Witch race, Golden Crow race and Rakshasa race attacked one after another as well, attacking the dermic power vortex with all their might. Although the dragon's true bodies could move and dodge, the dermic power vortex could not. As long as the dermic power vortex was destroyed, and the teleportation formation was destroyed, Daolord Araki Takeshi and the other 2 would not be able to escape. Boom! Right then, a loud bang sounded from the firmaments and a gigantic crack appeared. Immediately after, a figure flickered within. Although it was tiny, it emitted a terrifying might. Its black hair danced, and its body shone faintly, causing the entire world to tremble. That power had completely surpassed the conjoint body realm. The cultivators raised their heads and looked at the figure above the firmaments with shocked expressions. Their eyes were filled with endless shock as they held their breaths. Ancestor realm. That power was definitely at the ancestor realm. Even the experts of the primordial 6 races frowned slightly. A half-martial ancestor of the human race? A Protoss mighty figure frowned. Could this half-martial ancestor be here to save Araki Takeshi? Judging from the half-martial ancestor's dermic robes and aura, he should be from Chaos Essence Sect. However, Chaos Essence Sect seems to have an extremely deep feud with Araki Takeshi. Right then, The figure in midair spoke slowly. Araki Takashi, you destroyed the bloodline of my D clan and allowed you to live for so long. Today, it's time for you to pay with your blood. Every single word of the half-martial ancestor exuded a powerful might that caused the void to tremble. It's the D clan's half-martial ancestor. I got it. The D clan's half-martial ancestor was the one who attacked the Dao inheritance ground. If not for the ancestor realm expert from the Dragon Burial Valley, Araki Takashi would have died long ago. The previous time in the Dao inheritance ground, the D clan's half-martial ancestor did not appear and only attacked from afar. Today, he actually descended with his true body. Seems like Araki Takashi is destined for this calamity. He won't be able to survive today. D-Fan. Su Zimo's expression darkened. Boom. D-Fan extended his palm and pressed down in Su Zimo's direction through the void. Great Chaos Essence Palm. How powerful was the Great Chaos Essence Palm released with the power of a half-martial ancestor? Fine cracks began to appear in the space around them. Even space could not withstand it. At the same time, the attacks of the experts of the primordial races had already descended and enveloped Su Zimo's two true bodies and night spirit instantly. Right now, the only ones who could still fight were the true bodies of the dragons. The true bodies of the dragons could not retreat. The moment he retreated, the teleportation formation behind him would be destroyed. Once the teleportation formation collapsed, his path of retreat would be completely severed. However, against the attacks of so many primordial races and the power of half-martial ancestors, the Divine Phoenix's claw alone could not defend against them. There was only a single possibility for him to defend against this attack. The true bodies of the dragons waved their hands and drew a semicircle on both sides of their bodies. Finally, they gathered in front of their chests and changed their fingers, conjuring hand seals and drawing in front of their chests. A divine light burst forth from his glabella and entered his hands. After doing that, the true bodies of the dragons withered instantly, and their essence spirits ached. They had already pushed their essence spirits to their limits. Condense! The true bodies of the dragons hollered softly. Buzz! A divine power that shook heaven and earth descended. In front of the true bodies of the dragons, a gigantic stone shield appeared with a wave of his hands. It was rough and ancient with curved patterns carved on it in a mysterious manner. The stone shield was like an ancient turtle shell. What's that? Another innate divine power? If I remember correctly, Araki Takashi's dragon's clone has already released 2 innate divine powers. This should be the third, right? Even the primordial 6 races present were shocked, let alone the cultivators in the distance. That divine power was one of the 4 great divine powers recorded in the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the Great Wilderness, Spirit Turtle Shield. Back in the Dragon Bone Valley, the dragon's clone released it once in the fight against the Long Song. However, the true bodies of the dragons had just awakened this innate divine power, and had yet to comprehend it completely. As such, only a small portion of the complicated and mysterious patterns on the Spirit Turtle Shield shone with a faint glow. Even so, the Spirit Turtle Shield defended against Long Song's 5th claw. But now, the patterns on the Spirit Turtle Shield had lit up completely. The true bodies of the dragons had already cultivated this innate divine power to perfection. Actually, the reason why they were able to cultivate this innate divine power to perfection in such a short period of time was not only because the true bodies of the dragons were extremely talented and cultivated the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the Great Wilderness all year round. More than that, it was also because Su Zimo had conjured the turtle snake phenomenon when he advanced to the Jindan realm, and there were patterns on the back of the black tortoise as well. That was the reason why the true bodies of the dragons were able to cultivate this innate divine power to perfection at the fastest speed. Chapter 1321. The moment the Spirit Turtle Shield was formed, Su Zimo leaped into the dermic power vortex with Night Spirit in his arms. Almost at the same time, the attacks of the experts of the primordial 6 races and D-Fan's Great Chaos Essence Palm landed on the Spirit Turtle Shield. Boom! There was a deafening bang. A bedazzling light burst forth from the point of collision, forming a semicircular light barrier that expanded rapidly in all directions. The mud on the ground churned and sand and rocks flew. Rumble. Boom. Cracks appeared on the mountains around Heaven and Earth Valley, and they collapsed one after another. Countless boulders rolled down and the mountains collapsed. Even the cultivators who had already hidden far away to watch the battle felt deafened instantly, and could not hear anything. The power released by that collision was way too strong. Some conjoint body mighty figures were pale. Notwithstanding the power at the center of the collision, even the remnant power that spread out could kill them, if they could not dodge in time. The power of a half-martial ancestor is practically destroying the world. Tao Lord Araki Takeshi will definitely die against such a terrifying power. As the cultivators discussed, they tried their best to keep their eyes open and look towards the center of the battlefield. Amidst the billowing dust, a blurry figure could be vaguely seen. His hair was scarlet like flames, and although his legs were deeply buried in the mud, his spine was still upright and refused to bend. He's not dead yet. The experts of the primordial 6 races looked at everything in disbelief. That turtle shell was able to defend against such a terrifying attack. If a half-martial ancestor of the human race was here, he would be smashed into dregs as well. Su Zimo rejoiced internally. Thankfully, he was the first to awaken the pure defensive innate divine power of the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness. Most likely, only the divine powers of the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness could defend against that attack. Otherwise, there were no methods, dermic weapons, divine powers or trump cards that could defend against that attack with his 2 true bodies. Although the bronze square tripod was indestructible, the remnant power was enough to shatter the true bodies of the dragons hiding within. Of course, although the spirit turtle shield had blocked most of the power, it was still the full-powered attack of more than 100 primordial races and half-martial ancestors. The true bodies of the dragons did not have it easy either. The dragons' true bodies supported the spirit turtle shield with both hands. Most of the dragon's scales on their bodies had fallen off and fresh blood seeped out. This time, his bones and tendons felt like they were about to break. He could no longer feel his arms, and his chest was badly mangled. His chi and blood were severely depleted, and he had almost no strength left. Cracks had already appeared on the spirit turtle shield. This wasn't a crack on the tortoise shell. It was really broken. Not dead yet. Fan attacked again. The true bodies of the dragons used the last of their strength to pull their legs out of the soil. They leaped into the magic vortex behind them and disappeared. Fan transformed into a huge palm and instantly reached into the vortex of mana, wanting to capture the true bodies of the dragons. Back when Su Zimo tore apart the major transference talisman, Fan chased after him into the spatial tunnel and crippled Su Zimo's body. However, this time round, Fan's expression changed. When his palm entered the dermic power vortex, it was as though he had sunk into a bottomless ocean, a mysterious and vast starry sky. The true bodies of the dragons were like specks of dust within. He could not capture them at all. Although this beast hide was incomplete, it was engraved with an ancient teleportation formation that was much more advanced than the major transference talisman. If a Mahayana patriarch were to attack, he might be able to capture the traces of the true bodies of the dragons. He could not sense the power of a half-martial ancestor. Fan retracted his palm, and his gaze flickered with a furious expression. As a half-martial ancestor, the Dharma Daojun was as insignificant as an ant in his eyes. However, he had attacked twice and even his true body had descended this time round. Yet this ant still managed to escape right under his nose. Let's see where you can escape to. Fan was enraged and attacked brazenly. The great chaos essence palm descended onto the dermic power vortex like a gigantic millstone. The 3 of you can stay in the void turbulence forever. Boom. The dermic power vortex could not withstand it, and was shattered by the great chaos essence palm instantly. It collapsed and turned into nothingness before vanishing. Once the spatial tunnel shattered, it would mean that the teleportation failed, and the person being teleported would be exiled into the dark and cold void turbulence without light. They might never be able to return to Tianhuang mainland. That was not all. The void turbulence was extremely frightening, and even the bodies of some conjoint body mighty figures would be torn into pieces easily if they entered. Difan's expression was cold. Although he did not manage to kill Su Zimo personally, banishing the three of them to the endless void was enough to vent the hatred in his heart. Su Zimo's two true bodies and Night Spirit were behind the spatial tunnel. Suddenly, they felt a terrifying external force descend, and the spatial tunnel shattered instantly. The true bodies of the dragons were pulled away by a powerful suction force and disappeared before Qinglian's true body uncontrollably. Qinglian's true body was alarmed. He hurriedly took off his storage bag and threw it into his consciousness. Immediately after, a powerful void turbulence surged in and started attacking Qinglian's true body and Night Spirit. Ah! Qinglian's true body shouted, and felt as though his entire body was being torn apart. Even with the toughness of Qinglian's true body, he felt as though he was about to be torn into pieces by the omnipresent tearing force. He could not control his body and arms at all, and only felt his embrace lighten. He and Night Spirit were completely scattered by the void turbulence. Under the gaze of Qinglian's true body, Night Spirit quickly sank into the depths of the dark and cold void and disappeared. Under this terrifying tearing force, his consciousness gradually sank as well. Suddenly, a sacred Buddhist light descended and landed on his body, forming a golden barrier on the surface of Qinglian's true body. A thought flashed through Su Zimo's mind. However, he lost consciousness immediately after and floated in the dark and cold void. In a daze, Su Zimo's consciousness did not wake up. His surroundings were sometimes cold and sometimes warm. Sometimes, it was as though he was in an endless abyss that kept sinking. Other times, it was as though he was floating on a boundless sea. After an unknown period of time, Su Zimo's consciousness gradually returned. Although he did not open his eyes, he was gradually waking up. Countless memories of the battle in Heaven and Earth Valley surged into his mind. Finally, he saw a sacred Buddhist light in the dark void. There were many things that Su Zimo did not have time to think about when he was on the battlefield, fighting against cultivators and experts of the primordial races. However, at this moment, his consciousness returned, and he gradually regained consciousness. There was an answer to many of his doubts. In the battle, a thought flashed through his mind that he seemed to have overlooked something. It was only now that he realized that he had not overlooked anything, but a person. Monk Daming. In the Grand Primordium Ancient Temple, Monk Daming had once told him that he no longer needed to use the Grand Primordium Ancient Temple as bait to refine his bloodline. That bloodline was no longer enough to satisfy his appetite. At that time, Su Zimo did not think too much about it. Now that he thought about it, a battlefield like Heaven and Earth Valley was the perfect place for Monk Daming to refine his blood. Chapter 1322. Even though he had already escaped from Heaven and Earth Valley, there were many things that made him shudder when he recalled them. Among them, the greatest discovery was the reappearance of the Fiend Technique. The Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra was a Fiend technique that even the Fiend sects were wary of. Monk Daming was not the only one who cultivated it. Even the Master of Hellfire Hall and Heavenly Secrets of Enigma Palace had cultivated it. Including him, there were already 4 people who had appeared. Of course, Su Zimo had sensed the terror of this Fiend technique in time. After the battle at Thousand Demon Valley, he had not used it no matter how dangerous it was. He had even given up on the blood escape art. Qinglian's true body was in the Dao inheritance ground and had obtained more than 30 ancient inheritances. She even had a top-tier escape technique like Earth Crossing Golden Light. With so many escape techniques stacked together, they were no weaker than the blood escape technique. Initially, Su Zimo thought that the battle at Heaven and Earth Valley was a trap set by the various major sects and factions, and the primordial 6 races against him and Night Spirit. But now that he thought about it, things were not that simple. Heavenly Secrets of Enigma Palace played an extremely important role in this trap. Or to be precise, this trap might have been set up by Heavenly Secrets for his cultivation of the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. Be it him, Night Spirit, the primordial 6 races, the various major sects and factions, or even the fight for the Dharma characteristic ranking, they were all his pawns. The cultivators of Enigma Palace were meticulous. Heavenly Secrets' cultivation was much higher than Lin Xuanji's, and he definitely had the ability to set up this shocking trap. Many variables appeared throughout the entire process, such as Shura Yin Beichen, Su Zimo's heaven and earth dharma characteristic that surpassed the extreme realm, and the descent of the true bodies of dragons. However, those variables were still within Heavenly Secrets' control. That was because the outcome that Heavenly Secrets wanted was an intense battle, where more experts died, and more bloodlines of experts were spilled. Unfortunately, another variable appeared later on, and changed the situation completely. That variable was Monk Daming. Su Zimo wasn't sure when Monk Daming had arrived at Heaven and Earth Valley. Perhaps he had been hiding in Heaven and Earth Valley for a long time, but no one had discovered him. Throughout the entire process, Monk Daming did not appear. However, now that they thought about it carefully, they could vaguely catch some clues. The first time was when someone secretly attacked the Hall Master of Hellfire Hall. The Hall Master of Hellfire Hall had once fought with extreme fire. He wanted to activate the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra to recover his dermic powers and blood chi but failed. If no one had interfered, how could the Master of Hellfire Hall have failed? The second time was when someone broke through the spatial seal of Heaven and Earth Valley. Now that Su Zimo thought about it, the word break that sounded familiar to him was actually Monk Daming's voice. The reason why Monk Daming had enough time to find the spatial node of Heaven and Earth Valley's spatial seal and break it in one fell swoop was because he was uninvolved from the start. Only Monk Daming had such an ability. In the Transcendence realm, he had condensed 4 Transcendence aspects. Now that he was at the Conjoint Body realm and had fused 4 Transcendence aspects into his body, what sort of combat strength did he possess? The third time was when Heavenly Secrets was exposed for no reason and was hunted down by Yin Beichen. In the battle between the two of them, Heavenly Secrets wanted to refine his bloodline and counterattack to suppress Yin Beichen. However, he failed as well. Thereafter, Heavenly Secrets escaped far away, and Yin Beichen chased after him. Monk Daming must have interfered behind this. The fourth time was when Su Zimo entered the dermic power vortex. Defan attacked and shattered the spatial tunnel, causing turbulent void currents to surge in. At that time, a Buddhist light appeared in the dark and cold void and enveloped him. Monk Daming was probably the only one who could release the power of the Buddhist monasteries. Although Su Zimo escaped far away in the end and did not witness the final outcome of the battle in Heaven and Earth Valley, it was needless to say that Monk Daming was the biggest winner. Because of Su Zimo's relationship with Daming Monastery, Monk Daming had once let Su Zimo escape in the Grand Primordium Ancient Temple. He had also secretly broken through the spatial seal during the battle in Heaven and Earth Valley. However, all of that was under the premise that he would not be exposed. That was the reason why Monk Daming had not revealed himself the entire time, let alone appear to fight against the experts of the primordial 6 races. His ultimate goal was to refine the bloodline of Heaven and Earth Valley. Saving Su Zimo was only a matter of convenience. Su Zimo sighed internally and lamented. Heavenly Secrets came from Enigma Palace and hid behind the scenes to control everything. He used the experts of the world as chess pieces to set up this shocking scheme and schemed. However, he did not expect to benefit someone else. Someone's methods were even more brilliant than his. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. At the very most, Heavenly Secrets could only be considered as the mantis while Monk Daming was the oriole. Monk Daming was calm and composed. His talent was shocking, and his combat strength was heaven-defying. The moment he returned, he schemed against the experts of the world. Nobody could escape from his schemes, and even Heavenly Secrets suffered greatly. He had almost no weaknesses. Monk Daming was already so strong, but he was still locked in the stone coffin for 40,000 years. What sort of existence was the person who locked him up? How terrifying was that person? Su Zimo lamented internally and tried his best to recall the scene of him in the void turbulence. The first to lose contact was the true bodies of the dragons. The true bodies of the dragons were the last to leap into the dermic power vortex. When the spatial tunnel shattered, they suffered the greatest impact and were swept away by the void turbulence, disappearing without a trace. Su Zimo believed that given the physique of the dragon's true bodies, even the void turbulence would not be able to devour them. However, if there was no opportunity, the true bodies of the dragons would probably float in the void turbulence forever, unable to return to Tianhuang mainland. At the very least, Su Zimo had not sensed the existence of the true bodies of the dragons yet. Su Zimo had called out to the true bodies of the dragons in his heart, but there was no response. There were only three possibilities. Firstly, the true bodies of the dragons were already dead. Secondly, the true bodies of the dragons were still unconscious and would naturally not respond. Thirdly, the true bodies of the dragons were still floating in the void turbulence. Regardless of the situation, it was not optimistic. Su Zimo thought of Night Spirit again. Under the impact of the void turbulence, he was separated from Night Spirit. Night Spirit's fate was unknown as well. Finally, Su Zimo recalled what he experienced before he fainted in the void turbulence. Placed in the dark and cold void, he had no sense of direction, space or time, and could only float helplessly. Before long, he vaguely heard the sound of sutras being recited. He was extremely familiar with those sutras. It was the martial sutra that he created. Those sutras established a mysterious connection with him, and were transmitted through a spatial node. Qinglian's true body floated in that direction subconsciously. Before long, his vision shone brightly and his body fell rapidly. The surrounding darkness and coldness had already vanished. The two completely different environments had a huge impact on Qinglian's true body. Furthermore, Qinglian's true body was injured to begin with and fainted completely from exhaustion. However, Su Zimo knew that he had already escaped from the void turbulence. Right now he wanted to know where he was. Chapter 1323. Suddenly, a voice sounded beside Su Zimo's ears. "Sister, is that person still asleep?" A slightly immature voice of a young man sounded. It seemed to carry a bit of complaint. "Not yet." Another voice was heard. It was quite pleasant to the ears, and it sounded like a young girl. Su Zimo opened his eyes and looked over. He was in a room that was neither big nor small. Lying on a sandalwood bed, he was covered with a thick blanket, and a light-colored gauze curtain was closed, emitting a faint fragrance. On the wooden table beside the bed, there was a simple pot of orchids and a bronze mirror. The room was clean and tidy. Although the decorations were simple, there was a hint of elegance to it, resembling the boudoir of a young girl. The door was tightly shut. However, with Su Zimo's eyesight, he could see two figures walking in. The figure on the left was slightly shorter, but had broad shoulders and a broad body. He walked with a majestic gait. The figure on the right was slightly taller, and had long hair that fluttered. Her figure was graceful and alluring. She must be the sister that he was talking to just now. "Sister, that person's background is unknown. You've already done your duty by taking care of him for so long. If it were up to me, we should just throw him out and let him fend for himself." The young man on the left said. "What's the difference between throwing him out and killing him?" The girl shook her head. "We'll have to wait for him to wake up before we make any plans." "But sister, your dantian is shattered and you have to take care of that person every day. I'm worried about your body." The young man hesitated. "It's nothing," the girl smiled. "During this period of time, I've started cultivating the Wu Dao and gained some insights. My body's condition has improved." "Sister, you're still cultivating the Wu Dao?" The young man seemed to frown. "I heard from the outside that the demon Araki Takashi joined forces with the primordial taboo, and went on a killing spree in the Middle Continent, killing many people. What's so good about a cultivation technique left behind by that demon?" The girl did not refute and merely replied indifferently. "Those are just rumors." None of the cultivators of the three aristocratic families were present at the Dharma characteristic ranking. Who witnessed it personally? It's just a rumor. Su Zimo's heart stirred. The three great aristocratic families? However, I heard that Araki Takashi offended the immortal, Buddhist, and fiend Daos, and was besieged by them. Sister, think about it. If he isn't a heinous devil, why would the immortal Buddhist and fiend Daos not tolerate him? The young man refused to give up and continued. The girl fell silent. After pausing for a moment, the girl continued. I'm not sure about other things, but Araki Takashi established the Tao and imparted martial arts to the common people. This is something we saw with our own eyes. This is a great achievement that brings blessings to the world. The first half of the martial scripture will be passed down to the world, so that all living beings can cultivate it. Such great merit cannot be erased by anything. The young man still seemed to be indignant and said, "That may be the case, but since Araki Takashi preached, how many people have been able to condense the chi and blood gene Dan?" "That's normal," the girl said. "Cultivation is a heaven-defying path to begin with. Even for those with spirit roots, less than 1 in 10,000 can form a core. Furthermore, it's even more difficult for Wu Dao to cultivate. Forget it, let's not argue about these things." The girl waved it off and changed the topic with a smile. "You haven't had lunch yet, right? Let me pack up and make you something to eat." With that said, the girl pushed open the door with a creak. The siblings stood at the door and saw that Suzimo had already opened his eyes and was looking at them calmly. The young man was not old and was around 12 or 13 years old. From a young age, he already looked mature and had a bearing. The girl was around 15 or 16 years old and had yet to reach adulthood. However, she was already slender and elegant with snow-white skin. She was extremely beautiful, and her eyes were bright and spirited. "Ah!" The young man's expression changed starkly as he exclaimed. In a flash, he blocked in front of the girl and glared at Suzimo without blinking with a wary expression. When the girl saw that Suzimo had woken up, she was also surprised and delighted. However, compared to the young man, she was much calmer. Suzimo lifted the blanket on his body and stood up slowly. The young man's heart skipped a beat, and he reacted quickly. Slapping the storage bag by his waist, he withdrew a flying sword with a spirit pattern carved on it. It was an inferior-grade spirit weapon. Conjuring hand seals with his left hand and controlling the flying sword with his right, the young man warned softly, "Sister, watch out." Suzimo observed everything carefully. The young man was at Foundation Establishment realm, and his series of reactions were rather fast. However, the girl did not move at all. When she saw how wary the young man was, the girl smiled and merely shook her head gently. Pushing the young man away, she cupped her fists towards Suzimo. "Please forgive me, sir. I'm just worried about me." Suzimo nodded and did not say anything as he sized up the girl carefully. Back when he was in the chaotic currents of the void, he heard someone reciting the Wu Dao Sutra. If he was not wrong, it should be this girl. It was also a freak combination of factors. The girl cultivated the Wu Dao Sutra and happened to have a spatial node nearby. Through that spatial node, she established a connection with Suzimo, who was in the chaotic currents of the void. That was how Suzimo was able to escape. Otherwise, Suzimo did not know how long he would have to drift for if he missed that spatial node. In other words, although the girl before him did it unintentionally, she saved his life. Suzimo looked at the girl in a daze. However, the young man's expression turned extremely terrible. "Hey, what are you looking at? Do you believe that I'll dig your eyeballs out in a fit of rage?" The young man thought that Suzimo had ill intentions towards the girl and could not help but holler. Suzimo snapped out of his daze and could not help but laugh when he heard the young man's threat. As the Dharma Daojun, he could be considered as the #1 Dao Lord of Tianhuang mainland. But now, he was threatened by a mere Foundation Establishment cultivator. The young man before him could not be blamed. Right now, Suzimo's situation was a little special. Before entering the chaotic currents of the void, his black-haired essence spirit was affected by the life-severing curse released by Wuxia's essence spirit. Even now, that power had not dissipated and shrouded Suzimo's black-haired essence spirit. Therefore, Suzimo could not use the power of his essence spirit at all. In other words, he could not release any spirit consciousness, dharmic arts, or even heaven and earth dharma characteristics. Others would not be able to see through him, and would only treat him as a mortal. Of course, that did not mean that he had no means of protecting himself. Given Suzimo's Qinglian true body, even if he did not move, a random Dharma Daojun might not be able to hurt him. Furthermore, he could release shocking combat strength in melee combat with Qinglian's true body as well. Unlike the young man's reaction, The girl did not feel disgusted even though she was stared at by Su Zimo for a long time. For some reason, perhaps it was her sixth sense, the girl could not sense the malice in the green-robed man's heart. Furthermore, the green-robed man's eyes were clear and bright. Although he was staring at her, his gaze was different from how others looked at her. The girl could not help but feel a sense of trust towards him. Chapter 1324. Little brother, put away your spirit weapon. Don't be rude. The girl patted the young man's shoulder gently and chided him indifferently. Humph! The young man bared his teeth and glared at Su Zimo fiercely. Although he was unwilling, he still obeyed the girl's orders and put away his flying sword slowly. However, the young man refused to relax. His muscles were tense, and he had a wary expression, as though he could jump up and attack at any moment. Right now, Su Zimo's essence spirit was restrained by the power of the life-severing curse, and could not utilize dermic powers. To others, he was a mortal with no cultivation. Therefore, it was no wonder that the young man and woman could not tell Su Zimo's cultivation. At that moment, even if a conjoint body mighty figure were to come, they would not be able to tell Su Zimo's strength. You were the one who saved me? Su Zimo looked at the girl and asked. The girl nodded and said with a reminiscing expression, That day, I was cultivating outside when dark clouds suddenly filled the sky. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. A bolt of lightning descended and pierced an ancient tree. I saw that you fell not far away, and must have been knocked unconscious by the bolt of lightning. Hence I brought you back. Su Zimo nodded. How should I address you, sir? The girl asked again. Pondering for a moment, Su Zimo said, My surname is Su. He did not know where he was right now. Coupled with the fact that his essence spirit was restrained, and his combat strength was greatly reduced, there was naturally no way he could reveal his entire background. Of course, Su Zimo guessed that given the young man and woman's knowledge, they would not have heard of him even if he said his name. Everyone in Tianhuang mainland knew of Araki Takashi. However, not many people knew that Araki Takashi's real name was Su Zimo. Humph! The young man harumphed coldly and said sarcastically, You're obviously not a good person by being so secretive. The girl did not say anything. In her opinion, it was normal for this green-robed man to be wary of outsiders, since he was in a foreign place and had just awakened. How should I address you guys? Su Zimo asked. My name is Kitsune. The girl smiled and did not hide anything. She patted the young man beside her and said, This is my little brother, Baiming Ao. He was a little rude to Mr. Su. Please forgive him. Sister, you don't even know who this person is. Why did you tell him our names? The young man called Baiming Ao twisted his body as if he was unwilling. Kitsune smiled and shook her head. There was no need to hide such a thing, nor could it be hidden. Dark North. Su Zimo frowned slightly and murmured, This surname is not common. Hearing this, Baiming Ao clenched his fists, seemingly a little irritated. Kitsune's eyes also dimmed as she lowered her head slightly. Where is this? Su Zimo asked again. Kitsune said, This is Baiming Town. Everyone in the town is my clansman. Baiming Town? Su Zimo was puzzled and asked again. Where is Baiming Town? The eastern region? Middle continent? Kitsune shook her head. Baiming Town is located in the southern region of Tianhuang mainland. Southern region? Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. To think that he would have arrived at the southern region of Tianhuang mainland after activating the teleportation formation on the beast hide and shattering the spatial tunnel with D-Fan's help. He had never stepped foot in this region before and was extremely unfamiliar. Of course, he had some understanding of the southern region as well. For example, the Pamkara Temple, one of the 6 Buddhist monasteries, was a super sect of the southern region. Ever since he parted ways with Ming Zhen at the Dao inheritance ground, the two of them had not met again. Ming Zhen had once obtained the inheritance of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, and his cultivation should not be too far behind. He should have already entered the Dharma characteristic realm. If he had condensed the Ksitigarbha true body, he would have a reason to participate in the fight for the Dharma characteristic ranking. Could it be that Ming Zhen had already given up on fame and fortune, and did not even want to compete for the Dharma characteristic ranking? Or did something happen to Mingzhen? Right now, the North region was ruled by the capital of Great Zhou and various major sections. The Middle Continent relied entirely on the supersections. However, the Southern region was different from the North region and Middle Continent. The greatest factions of the Southern region were the legendary 3 aristocratic families, 9 immortal sects, 8 demon races, 7 fiend sects, 6 Buddhist monasteries, 5 heretical doctrines and 4 unorthodox groups. Following them were the 3 aristocratic families. The 3 aristocratic families were different from the Yuan clan and Tuoba clan that Su Zimo had fought against in the North region. The 3 aristocratic families were truly passed down from the ancient era and dominated the southern region. They were indestructible and had weathered countless storms. The most frightening thing was that in the ancient era, the 3 aristocratic families of the southern region had produced emperors. That was the most important reason why the 3 aristocratic families were passed down through the ages. The 3 ancient aristocratic families all had compound surnames. The Dongfang aristocratic family, Nangong family and Shiman family. In the southern region, none of the Dao titles were as useful as those 3 surnames. Cultivators with those 3 surnames could do whatever they wanted in the southern region. Mr. Su, you don't seem to be from the southern region? Kitsune frowned and asked curiously. Yes, Su Zimo nodded. If you're not from the southern region, how did you get here? What are your motives for coming to Baiming Town? Baiming Ao questioned immediately. This time round, Kitsune did not stop him either. After all, Su Zimo's background was unknown. The fact that she could save Su Zimo was already extremely benevolent. She did not know if Su Zimo was good or bad either. If Su Zimo truly had ulterior motives, she could not allow Su Zimo to remain in Baiming Town. It's a long story. Su Zimo laughed bitterly. If he were to tell the entire story of how he arrived in the southern region, the young man and woman would probably be scared half to death. The young man sneered. Sister, what did I say? This person is sneaky and secretive. Indeed, he's not a good person. Su Zimo could not be bothered to refute. His gaze shifted and landed on Kitsune's dantian. Frowning slightly, he asked, Your dantian is shattered? Just now, when he heard the conversation between the young man and woman, he thought that Kitsune's dantian was shattered because something went wrong with her cultivation. But now, it seemed like Kitsune's dantian was shattered by an external force. Kitsune did not answer and asked instead, Mr. Su, you know how to cultivate as well? A little, Su Zimo nodded. Kitsune pursed her lips. There's nothing to hide. So what if my dantian is shattered? At most, I'll just start over. There was no hint of disappointment or despair from a shattered dantian in Kitsune's eyes. Even Su Zimo could not help but praise her internally when he saw that resolute and unyielding gaze. Sister, don't worry. I'll definitely take revenge for you. When Baiming Ao heard that, he even gave up on attacking Su Zimo for the time being and turned back, gritting his teeth and saying hatefully, Little brother, don't interfere in this matter. Kitsune shook her head. How can I not interfere? Baiming Ao said in grief and indignation. It wasn't easy for sister to form a core, but it was destroyed by that woman. This feud is absolutely irreconcilable. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat, and he was greatly moved. This Kitsune, who was only 15 or 16 years old, had actually formed a core and condensed a Jin Dan. Such talent was truly shocking. Chapter 1325. He did not know how long Kitsune had been cultivating the Wu Dao, but Su Zimo could tell from her actions that she should have already cultivated the first transformation of the Wu Dao, the lesser mastery of the 9 bulls and 2 tigers. Su Zimo had experienced the pain, despair and confusion of Jin Dan's destruction personally, and it was not something that anyone could endure. Even with his willpower, he had been depressed for a period of time. If he had not seen the words left behind by Dai Yu at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley, it would have been difficult for him to reignite his hopes. The fact that this 15 or 16-year-old girl before him was able to pull through on her own, and did not become depressed to cultivate the Wu Dao instead, it was unimaginable how difficult it was for her to do so, and how much pain and suffering she had to endure. From this young girl, he could see her determination to fight against fate, her unyieldingness towards it, and her determination to improve herself bravely. That was the will of the Wu Dao. Suddenly, a thought crossed Su Zimo's mind, but he suppressed it quickly. How long have I been unconscious for? Su Zimo pondered for a moment and asked. Bai Mingshui said, It's been a year. That long? Su Zimo frowned slightly. This meant that a year had passed since the Battle of Heaven and Earth Valley. He did not know what major events had happened in the cultivation world in the past year, and if Yin Beichen was still fine. Su Zimo thought for a moment and asked indirectly, I heard you guys arguing about the fight for the Dharma characteristic ranking and the Fiend. What's going on? The Fiend Araki Takeshi. Bai Mingao pouted his lips in hatred. That fiend went on a killing spree in the Middle Continent, and was hunted down by the Immortal, Fiend and Buddhist sections. I heard that he was exiled into the void by a peerless expert of the Immortal sects, and died a long time ago. Oh, Su Zimo nodded. Kitsune frowned slightly, and looked at Su Zimo in deep thought. She felt that Mr. Su's question was a little abrupt. She had once thought that this Mr. Su might be a cultivator, or even a grand cultivator. It was just that he had hidden his cultivation level, so that they could not see through him. However, when she saw that Su Zimo's face was yellowish and sickly, which was far from the temperament of a cultivator, and did not have the pressure of a cultivator, she stopped thinking about it. At this time, Su Zimo's black-haired primordial spirit was shrouded by the power of the life-severing curse. He did not look well. His body was thin, like a scholar who had been ill for a long time. Right at this moment, the ground in the distance trembled violently. Not long after, the neighing of horses and the roaring of beasts came from outside the door. Demonic aura surrounded him, and spiritual energy soared to the heavens. Although Su Zimo could not use his spiritual perception to probe, he could tell at a glance that a group of cultivators had barged into Baiming Town on spirit beasts and spirit demons. Them again. Baiming Ao's expression changed as he clenched his teeth. Kitsune had a calm expression, as though she was already used to this scene. Although he could not see what was going on outside through the tall walls of the courtyard, Su Zimo's ears were sharp, and he could hear the shouts in the town clearly. All of you search carefully. Don't miss out on any ancient treasures. A rather arrogant voice sounded. The Baiming family was a major family clan that was on par with the 3 aristocratic families in the past. They have a strong foundation. Ha 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 ha. A series of laughter came from the crowd outside. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. To think that the Baiming family would have such a background. However, by the looks of it, they had already declined to this extent, and were being bullied without resistance. A large group of spirit beasts and spirit demons galloped through Baiming Town without any restraint. It's Dongfang Xian. When Baiming Ao heard the voice outside, a deep hatred flashed through his eyes. Unable to hold it in, he rushed out of his room and ran towards the courtyard. Little brother. Kitsune chased after him hurriedly and grabbed Baiming Ao, shaking her head. What's the difference between you rushing up now and courting death? It's his sister who shattered your Jin Dan. I can't take it lying down. Baiming Ao gripped his fists tightly with reddened eyes. Kitsune replied, It's nothing. This is a feud between me and Dongfang Ji. I'll settle it in the future. Right then, the group of cultivators arrived outside the courtyard. Boom! The tall walls of the courtyard were smashed by a tremendous force, causing sand and gravel to fly everywhere as it collapsed. Outside the billowing dust cloud stood dozens of cultivators. Most of them were Foundation Establishment cultivators, and there were a few perfected Jin Dan among them. All of them rode on spirit beasts, and looked down at the Kitsune siblings in the courtyard. Dongfang Xian, what are you trying to do? Baiming Ao hollered with widened eyes. Although he was young, he already had an extraordinary aura. The one called Dongfang Xian was a young man in his 20s. He had already cultivated to Jin Dan realm, and was riding on a menacing demon beast. The demon beast had bloodshot eyes and lush fur. Its limbs were muscular, and it was tall and mighty. It exuded a torrential malevolent aura. It was an ancient remnant beast, the Terminus Spirit Hound. This ancient remnant beast was already a Jin Dan realm spirit demon. When it heard Baiming Ao's holler at Dongfang Xian, it could not help but growl at Baiming Ao. Glaring at Baiming Ao with bloodshot eyes, It lowered its body and charged forward with thick saliva flowing from the corner of its mouth. The few Jin Dan perfected beings aside, the Terminus spirit hound alone was enough to kill the Kitsune siblings with ease. Although Baiming Ao was fearful against the ancient remnant beast, he did not retreat at all. Instead, he glared at the Terminus spirit hound fiercely without blinking. Even the crippled Jin Dan Kitsune stood side by side with Baiming Ao fearlessly. Fufu. Dongfang Xian patted the Terminus spirit hound beneath him and sneered. Doggy, calm down. Calm down. Everyone could tell that Dongfang Xian was scolding Baiming Ao by doggy. The cultivators behind Dongfang Xian burst into laughter. Isn't this the eldest Miss Baiming who fought with my sister for the treasure? TSK. To think that you're still alive after my sister crippled your Jin Dan. That's not easy. Dongfang Xian's gaze shifted to Kitsune, as he remarked in an eccentric manner. Kitsune's expression was calm, and she did not say anything. Dongfang Xian, don't go overboard. Baiming Ao gripped his fists and shouted. Yes, I'm going overboard. What can you do about it? Dongfang Xian pouted his lips. You're just a brat who's still wet behind the ears. You can't even defeat the spirit demon beneath me. What right do you have to bark at me? Dongfang Xian, just you wait. I'll definitely fight you the moment I step foot into Jin Dan. Baiming Ao said word by word. Fufu. Dongfang Xian roared in laughter. You're declaring war on me? Ha ha ha. Some cultivators of the Dongfang aristocratic family roared in laughter as well. How long do I have to wait? Dongfang Xian asked with a fake smile. 10 years? 20 years? 100 years? 3 years? Baiming Ao replied. The aristocratic family competition will be held 3 years later. At that time, I'll naturally fight you. Dongfang Xian feigned ignorance and asked. The aristocratic family competition is an affair of the 3 ancient aristocratic families. What has it got to do with the Baiming family? Oh, Dongfang Xian was enlightened. I nearly forgot that the Baiming family was on par with the 3 ancient aristocratic families in the ancient era. It's a pity that there are only a few hundred people left in the Baiming family. Sigh, there's no successor. Chapter 1326. Dongfang Xian, if there's nothing else you can leave. Kitsune replied indifferently. How many times have you guys been to Baiming Town over the years? Even if there were any treasures, they would have been taken away by the 3 aristocratic families a long time ago. That might not be the case. Dongfang Xian replied. I heard that the Baiming family is guarding a shocking secret from the ancient era. It might be a massive treasure trove, or some sort of secret cultivation technique. Who knows what sort of peerless treasure it might be? Kitsune laughed self-deprecatingly. If there was truly such a treasure trove, would the Baiming family have declined to such a state? Dongfang Xian waved his hand. Search. Don't miss out on any secret keys, beast hides or treasure maps. Take away anything that's old. The cultivators of the Dongfang family swarmed in and searched the courtyard without restraint. Stone stools, teapots and bronze mirrors were nothing more than ordinary items in Su Zimo's eyes. They were all stuffed into the storage bags of the cultivators. It was no wonder why the courtyard and house looked so simple. If the cultivators of the 3 aristocratic families came here every once in a while, there would not be much left. Su Zimo stood at the side and watched coldly. When the cultivators of the Dongfang family saw that he was merely a mortal, none of them looked at him or bothered about him. After searching the courtyard wantonly, the cultivators of the Dongfang family did not find anything and left under Dongfang Xian's lead. Su Zimo's gaze shifted. Not far from the courtyard, on the long street of Baiming Town, stood a handsome man with an extraordinary aura. He was at Jin Dan realm and was looking over. Brother Nangong. When he saw that figure, Baiming Ao was delighted and exclaimed. He wanted to rush forward, but was pulled back by Kitsune by the arm. Baiming Ao was confused, but he still asked, Brother Nangong, where have you been for the past year? Why haven't you come to visit sister? Do you know? Sister saw a spiritual weapon first, and had already paid for it. But Dongfang Ji saw it, and wanted to snatch it away. Sister refused to give it to her. So she broke sister's Jin Dan. From the looks of it, this Jimren Nangong should be a member of the Nangong family. and his relationship with Kitsune was not shallow. Baiming Ao seemed to have a lot of trust in him. It was just that he was too young, and there were many things that he didn't understand. Su Zimo had only heard those few sentences, and he already noticed something amiss. Kitsune's Jin Dan was broken, and for a whole year, this Taoist master Nangong did not come. This already explained some problems. Moreover, the way Kitsune looked at this spiritual master Nangong was clearly somewhat cold. This Shinran Nangong slowly walked over. Hearing Baiming Ao's words, he nodded calmly and said, "I've heard. Little Shui, Dongfang Ji is a direct descendant of the Dongfang family. Why do you have to compete with her?" Shinran Nangong looked at Kitsune and said slowly. Kitsune's lips curled into a mocking smile. She was smart and had already expected this. However, Baiming Ao widened his eyes and said in disbelief, "Big brother Nangong, what are you saying? Dongfang Ji is the one who is unreasonable and snatched my sister's things. If she wants it, just give it to her." Shinran Nangong said calmly. Baiming Ao was dumbfounded, as if this was the first time he knew this man in front of him. Kitsune said, "Yes, she is a direct descendant of the Dongfang family and has a noble status. If she wants it, I'll just give it to her. Why fight with her?" After pausing for a moment, Kitsune shook her head and said, "But I don't want to give it to her." Hearing this, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. This scene was familiar. This sentence was familiar. "You don't want to give it to her?" Shinran Nangong laughed and shook his head. "What's the ending? Your Jin Dan is crippled, and you'll be a cripple from now on. What do you have to fight with Dongfang Ji?" "Nangong you," Baiming Ao shouted. "What are you talking about? Don't you like my sister? What do you mean by saying this?" "Hee. Nangong Yu laughed and said, "Do you really think that I'm getting close to your sister because I like her? I just want to get the secret that the Baiming family is guarding from you. In other words, with your sister's status, even if she marries into the Nangong family, she'll just be a concubine." These words were more hurtful than a sharp sword or a long spear. Kitsune's body swayed, but she still pursed her lips and steadied herself. "You." Baiming Ao was furious. Blood rushed to his head as he gritted his teeth and rushed forward, wanting to fight Nangong Yu to the death. Kitsune held him tightly. "That's more like it." Nangong Yu laughed. "Xiao Shui, although you're already a cripple, I can still give you a promise." Nangong Yu raised her head slightly and said proudly, "As long as you tell me the secret that the Baiming family is guarding, I'll allow you to marry into the Nangong family as a concubine. At least I can protect you and your sister from being humiliated. Moreover, in the Nangong family, you can get some cultivation resources and secret manuals. Get lost." Kitsune's lips moved slightly and spat out a word coldly. Nangong Yu shook her head and laughed. "Kitsune, you have to think carefully. The Baiming family has already fallen to such a state, and you're also a cripple. I'm only giving you this chance because I pity you and your sister. Don't regret it." "Nangong Yu." Baiming Ao could not help but scold. "You're just a collateral descendant of the Nangong family. What right do you have to be so arrogant?" The three aristocratic families were powerful and had many bloodlines. There were hundreds of millions of people. Among them, the direct bloodline was the most honorable. The collateral descendants were much inferior. As a collateral descendant of the Nangong family, Nangong Yu's status in the family was indeed not high. Unless she was a once-in-a-lifetime demon-level genius, there was no way she could join the direct bloodline. Nangong Yu was not angry and said, "It's precisely because I'm a collateral descendant that I want the secret that the Baiming family is guarding. If I get this secret, I'll naturally make a great contribution and can join the direct bloodline. You and your sister will also be protected by me." Nangong Yu spread her hands and said, "This is the best of both worlds. Why not? Get lost." Baiming Shui spoke slowly and neatly. It was as if she felt disgusted to say another word to Nangong Yu. "Sigh." Nangong Yu shook her head and sighed. "How stubborn. I'd like to see how long you and your sister can last." Nangong Yu pointed at the surrounding dilapidated walls and the courtyard that had been trampled into a mess. She said, "There will be many more days like this. Haha." Nangong Yu's gaze shifted and naturally landed on Su Zimo. Nangongyu furrowed her brows slightly. For some reason, the green-robed cultivator's gaze made her heart throb for no reason. However, she soon realized that the green-robed cultivator was merely a mortal. Chuckling, she turned and left. Chapter 1327. Right from the beginning, Su Zimo did not make a move, and merely watched coldly from the sidelines. Initially, the thought that he had just suppressed rose once more. Actually, just now, Su Zimo was tempted to take in a disciple after sensing the rare will of Wu Dao from Kitsune. However, on second thought, he remembered that his identity was special. He had offended many super sects and primordial races. If he appeared in the cultivation world, he would definitely be hunted down. He could not even protect himself. If he took in a disciple, it would bring disaster upon his disciple. In reality, given Su Zimo's capabilities, he was qualified to take in a disciple a long time ago. The reason why he did not do so all these years was because he was worried that he would cause trouble for his disciple and implicate her. But now the many things that happened to Kitsune gave him a mysterious feeling, and he was finally determined to take in a disciple. Kitsune was just like him in Pingyang Town. However, he watched everything coldly from the sidelines, just like Dayu in the past. It was a mysterious feeling, like an indescribable fate. More importantly, Kitsune cultivated Wu Dao and rescued him from the void turbulence. That was equivalent to saving his life. Kitsune picked him up, just like how he picked up Dayu back then. From then on, he entered the path of cultivation and obtained an opportunity. In fact, Kitsune's experience was similar to his. All of this was a freak combination of factors. It was like karma, like the cycle of reincarnation, like it was predestined. Now that Su Zimo was infected with the life-severing curse and had no idea how to dispel it, he might as well stay in Baiming Town for the time being. "Sister, are you alright?" Baiming Ao asked in concern. Even though Baiming Shui had not shown any signs of sadness or grief from the very beginning, Nangongyu's words were truly hurtful. "I'm fine," Kitsune smiled. Baiming Ao was relieved when he saw his sister's smile. "Sister, don't worry. There are still 3 years left. I will cultivate well. Dongfang Xian, Dongfang Ji, Nangongyu. I won't let any of them off." Baiming Ao clenched his fist and swore. "Yes, little brother, I believe in you." Kitsune nodded. "Sister, I have to hurry up and go to the clan hall to cultivate. During this period of time, I might not be able to come back. Can you do it by yourself?" Baiming Ao asked again. "I'm fine. Don't worry about me." Kitsune said, "Go and cultivate. You don't have to come back to see me for the time being. This is Baiming Town. Nothing major will happen. It's just people from the 3 aristocratic families coming and going." Baiming Ao nodded. After that, he seemed to have thought of something, and he looked at Su Zimo, who was not far away. He frowned and berated. Why aren't you leaving?" Kitsune's heart softened at the sight of Su Zimo's frail figure and withered face. She said, "Little brother, go and cultivate. I'll handle Mr. Su's matter." Baiming Ao nodded hesitantly. "That works too. If anything happens, sister, go to the clan hall and look for me." "Yes." Kitsune nodded. Baiming Ao glared fiercely at Su Zimo before turning and leaving, disappearing before long. Kitsune watched Baiming Ao leave before turning around slowly. Looking at the mess in the courtyard, she remained silent, and her eyes gradually turned red. Finally, Kitsune squatted down slowly and hugged her arms, burying her head in tears. This girl did not show any fear when she was bullied by the Dongfang family. Even after being ridiculed by Nangongyu and suffering a great grievance, she did not cry. However, when the Dongfang family, Nangongyu and her younger brother left, she burst into tears, venting all her grievances and emotions. After all, she was only 15 years old and had endured way too much. Su Zimo merely stood at the side and did not go forward to console her. However, there was a look of admiration in his eyes. After a long time, the crying gradually stopped. Kitsune wiped the tears off her face haphazardly with her sleeves. Standing up, she caught sight of Su Zimo looking at her, and could not help but blush. "I'm sorry for making a fool of myself, sir," Kitsune said. Just now, she could not hold back her grievances, and forgot that Su Zimo was still around. Su Zimo smiled gently. It's fine. Do you have anywhere you want to go, Mr. Su? If it's nearby, I can send you back? Kitsune asked. Su Zimo shook his head. If it's convenient, I intend to stay here for a while. I wonder if you... I'm fine, Kitsune continued. There are some empty rooms here. However, something like today might happen again in the future, and I'm afraid it might disturb you, sir. It's fine. Su Zimo waved it off. I don't care. Kitsune frowned slightly. Even if Mr. Su was immortal, he still knew a thing or two about the cultivation world. Furthermore, he was not afraid of what happened today at all. If it was any other mortal, they would have been scared half to death at the sight of those menacing spirit beasts and demons. Yet, Mr. Su seemed as though nothing had happened. However, it was even more unlikely that he was a cultivator. What a strange person! Kitsune was confused, but she did not think too much about it. For some reason, she had an inexplicable sense of trust towards this green-robed cultivator, as though she believed that he would definitely not hurt her. What's up with the Biming family that they were talking about? Su Zimo asked. Kitsune thought for a moment and did not hide anything. In the ancient era, there were 4 aristocratic families in the southern region. They were Dongfang, Nangong, Shimin and Biming. However, the Biming family gradually declined later on and never rose again. In the ancient era, the Biming family was on par with the 3 aristocratic families and had hundreds of millions of clansmen. It's a pity that this town is all that's left now. Kitsune gave a self-deprecating laugh. Even so, the 3 aristocratic families refused to let Biming town off, and would come to raid it from time to time. You're looking for the secret guarded by the Biming family? Su Zimo tried asking. Yes, Kitsune said. Rumor has it that our family has been guarding a shocking secret for generations. However, I don't know about it and no one told us either. It's the same for the other clansmen as well. All these years, the 3 aristocratic families have stolen all the treasures, cultivation techniques and secret skills of the Biming family. Even Biming town was almost dug 3 feet deep, but no secret was discovered. Pausing for a moment, Kitsune continued. The reason why the 3 aristocratic families kept the Biming family clansmen alive is because they still hope that they can discover that so-called secret from us. Fufu. If there's truly a shocking secret, it would have been discovered long ago. How could it have been hidden for so long? Su Zimo nodded. However, that rumor was not entirely without benefits for the Biming family. If not for that rumor, the Biming family would have been destroyed long ago without a single clansman left. Chapter 1328. Mr. Su, you've just woken up and aren't in a good state. Go and rest first. I'll clean up this place. Kitsune pointed to the courtyard. Su Zimo nodded and did not decline. He had just woken up and was about to check his body's condition. After returning to his room, Su Zimo looked into his consciousness and frowned. More than half of the power of the life-severing curse was destroyed by Qinglian's sword. However, the curse was extremely vicious and still shrouded the black-haired essence spirit. He could not use his spirit consciousness at all. There was no need for him to comprehend heaven and earth, cultivate cultivation techniques, and advance his cultivation. This meant that if he could not dispel the power of the curse, Su Zimo's cultivation would forever remain at the perfected Dharma characteristic realm. What was worse was that he could not use dharmic powers or release any essence spirit secret skills at all. It was difficult to dispel the power of the curse with the power of the black-haired essence spirit alone, and had to rely on external forces. Su Zimo looked at the creation lotus platform, where the black-haired essence spirit sat in deep thought. At that moment, due to the existence of the power of the life-severing curse, the creation lotus platform was completely isolated from the black-haired essence spirit. The light that shot out from the lotus hole could not pierce through the power of the life-severing curse either. If the creation lotus platform could be restored to its former state and become the true Qinglian of creation, Qinglian's power would be immense, and she would definitely be able to dispel the life-severing curse. However, how difficult was it to revive the Qinglian of creation? It was probably many times more difficult than dispelling the power of the life-severing curse. It was only possible if there was a primordial divine spring. But now, the only primordial divine spring that Su Zimo knew of was in the Dragon Bone Valley. However, Qinglian's true body could not enter at all. A year had passed since the battle at Heaven and Earth Valley, and the dragons must have heard the news. He wondered what the dragons would think if they found out that the true body of the dragons was Su Zimo's clone, the red-headed ghost, and some of the elders of the dragons treated the true bodies of the dragons well. Now that the true bodies of the dragons were banished into the void, and nowhere to be found, Su Zimo felt guilty towards the dragons and the red-headed ghost. At the thought of the red-headed ghost, Su Zimo was confused. After Patriarch Yuan Bei passed away, the red-headed ghost did not return to the Dragon Bone Valley, and no one knew where he went. Su Zimo suppressed his distracting thoughts and closed his eyes to meditate. He tried to communicate with heaven and earth to dispel the power of the life-severing curse. Time gradually passed, and in the blink of an eye, it was already late at night. Su Zimo slowly opened his eyes, smiled bitterly, and shook his head slightly. It still didn't work. The curse created by the self-destruction of the essence spirit of a mighty figure of the witch race was indeed terrifying. He was already extremely lucky to be able to keep his life. If the true bodies of dragons did not possess the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness, they would not be able to defend against the life-severing curse, even if they cultivated a powerful essence spirit and possessed a terrifying killing technique, such as their reverse scales. Phew! Whoosh! Right then, the sound of fist winds could be heard from the courtyard. Su Zimo walked out of his room and saw a young girl practicing 9 different movements under the bright moonlight. Her figure was agile and graceful. After an unknown period of time, the young girl's cheeks were covered in sweat. She had a serious expression and did not notice Su Zimo beside her. Su Zimo looked at the full moon above his head in a daze, as though he had returned to that night many years ago. It was also under such moonlight that a woman bestowed him with an opportunity under a tree with peach blossoms, and brought him onto the path of cultivation. Mr. Su. Right then, a voice sounded from the courtyard. When Kitsune caught sight of Su Zimo, she stopped what she was doing and called out while panting slightly. Su Zimo nodded. This is Wu Dao, right? Yes, Kitsune said. Araki Takashi established the Dao and imparted martial arts to all living beings. This Wu Dao can cultivate even without a spirit root. I wonder if you have a spirit root, sir. Have you tested it before? Yes, I haven't. Su Zimo shook his head. That's all right. Kitsune smiled. If Mr. Su wants to cultivate, you can try cultivating Wu Dao. I've been cultivating for about a year, and I feel that my strength is gradually increasing. I've made some small gains. When Kitsune saw that Su Zimo was indifferent and did not seem interested, she thought for a moment and said, even if you don't want to enter the cultivation world, it's not bad to cultivate Wu Dao to strengthen your body. Actually, I know a little about Wu Dao as well. Su Zimo smiled gently. Ah, you know about it too? Kitsune asked in surprise. Yes. Su Zimo nodded. There's something wrong with the way you're cultivating it. Kitsune frowned and looked at Su Zimo suspiciously. These are the Taoist movements passed down by Araki Takashi. I've long memorized them by heart. How can there be any mistakes? Su Zimo did not say much, and demonstrated the 9 movements of Wu Dao's first transformation in front of Kitsune. What's the difference? Kitsune was still puzzled. Both of their movements were almost the same. However, there were some subtle differences. You have to know that there are only 9 movements for each transformation of Wu Dao's 9 transformations. These 9 movements have all been tempered through countless years of deductions. Not the slightest mistake is tolerated, Su Zimo said in a deep voice. It may seem like some subtle differences, but a slight difference can lead to a huge difference. Kitsune was still doubtful. After all, she was once a cultivator, and even cultivated to the Jindan realm. Anyone would be suspicious if they were taught by a mortal without any cultivation. In her opinion, how could a mortal like Su Zimo understand Araki Takashi's thoughts, and not Dao Lord Araki Takashi? Kitsune said, Mr. Su, there doesn't seem to be any problems with my cultivation. In the past year, my strength has been growing. Although I'm not at the strength of 9 bulls, I'm at the strength of 5 bulls. Su Zimo said indifferently. Based on your cultivation speed, which transformation of Wu Dao can you reach in 3 years? 3rd or 4th transformation. At the aristocratic family competition, you'll still be bullied by people like Dongfang Ji, let alone take revenge. Kitsune was silent. She knew that Su Zimo was right. Based on her cultivation speed, it would take her at least 10 years to cultivate to the blood Qi Jin Dan. Su Zimo continued. Furthermore, if you cultivate like this, you might be able to condense the blood Qi Jin Dan in the future. However, your achievements will be limited. Don't even think about cultivating the Dipper constellation, indestructible Vajra, or even the strength of dragon and elephant. With Kitsune's talent, even if she fumbled around on her own, she would be able to cultivate to the 6th transformation of Wu Dao, the blood Qi Jin Dan. That way, she would have the chance to condense an essence spirit and enter the nascent soul realm. However, Su Zimo knew that the 6th transformation of Wu Dao was not the end. The last 3 transformations of Wu Dao were the true essence of the Martial Sutra. Those were the heaven-defying methods that allowed one to be reborn and suppress those of the same level. Right now there was a problem with Kitsune's cultivation foundation. Her achievements in the future would be limited. Hearing Su Zimo's words, Kitsune couldn't help but waver. After hesitating for a while, she followed the movements that Su Zimo just now demonstrated and executed the first movement. Su Zimo shook his head slightly. He stretched out his leg and kicked Kitsune's body continuously for more than 10 times. Kitsune clearly saw Su Zimo kicking towards her, but she didn't know why she couldn't dodge at all. In a flash, a sharp pain came from her body. She subconsciously changed her movements. Just as she stopped her movements, a wave of heat suddenly surged in her body. It was as if her body was on fire, and the surging profound qi merged into her flesh and blood. In just a moment she was covered in sweat. Chapter 1329. How could this be? Kitsune's heart skipped a beat. Just this one action was much better than her repeated practice of the 9 actions. Could it be that Wu Dao's 9 transformations was truly as Mr. Su had said? A single wrong action could lead to a huge difference? If every single action had such a shocking effect, she might be able to break through to Wu Dao's 2nd transformation, 5 Qi origins, within a month or 2 of cultivation. Perhaps she might truly be able to cultivate the blood Qi Jin Dan 3 years later, and form a core once more. A cold glint flashed through Kitsune's eyes when she thought about the faces of Dongfang Xian, Dongfang Ji and Nangong Yu. At such a young age, she was already exuding a murderous aura. Su Zimo nodded to himself. Just now, have you memorized the actions clearly? Yes. Kitsune nodded, and repeated the actions in front of Su Zimo. Su Zimo extended his leg once more and kicked 3 times in a row, landing on Kitsune's body like lightning. The latter could not react at all. A sharp pain shot through her body and Kitsune gasped slightly. However, she grit her teeth and did not make a sound. She knew very well that Su Zimo was correcting her actions for her. The first time around, Kitsune made more than 10 mistakes in the same action. Su Zimo had merely demonstrated it once, and there were only 3 mistakes left for Kitsune. That level of memory and talent was extremely rare. However, Su Zimo's expression was indifferent, and he did not praise or encourage her. Kitsune still had to go through many unimaginable difficulties in order to cultivate Wu Dao. This was only the first step. After Kitsune familiarized herself with the first action, Su Zimo demonstrated the second action. Kitsune followed suit and practiced continuously. After a night, Su Zimo had already imparted all 9 actions of Wu Dao's first transformation to Kitsune. Although Wu Dao's 9 transformations had already spread throughout the world. However, there was no one to teach and dispel the doubts, so the effects were completely different. What's more, the person who taught him was the creator of Wu Dao. With Su Zimo's cultivation base, insight and knowledge, he was more than capable of teaching the Dharma Daojun, let alone teaching Kitsune. If Su Zimo were to establish a sect, it would definitely not be weaker than the 108 upper sects of Tianhuang mainland. After Su Zimo imparted the first transformation of Wu Dao to Kitsune, he didn't show up again. He stayed in seclusion for a long time, thinking of a way to break the life-severing curse. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. One day, Kitsune knocked on the door and called out softly, "Mr. Su?" Pushing the door open, Su Zimo scanned Kitsune and nodded slightly. "Not bad. Wu Dao's first transformation has been cultivated to perfection." Kitsune smiled as well. "It's all thanks to your generous guidance, Mr. Su." Kitsune knew very well that if not for Su Zimo, she might not have been able to cultivate Wu Dao's first transformation to perfection even in a year, let alone a month. "I'll demonstrate the movements of Wu Dao's second transformation for you. Watch carefully." Su Zimo arrived in the courtyard and demonstrated the 9 actions of Wu Dao's second step, 5 Qi unification. Kitsune watched intently, unwilling to miss out on any detail. The foundation of Wu Dao is to continuously develop one's potential. The human body is a huge treasure with unlimited potential. The 5 viscera of the human body can be called the 5 great divine treasures. By tempering the 5 viscera, one can obtain the divine qi of the 5 treasures. By connecting the 7 orifices, one can gain the ability to see and hear. One's strength will increase exponentially, one's breath will be long and one's stamina will be astonishing. Even 5 horses will not be able to tear a corpse apart. Su Zimo imparted the essence of Wu Dao's second transformation to Kitsune, without holding back. Whatever Kitsune did not understand, Su Zimo would enlighten her with just a few words. Bai Mingshui could clearly feel that her body was undergoing obvious changes every single day. It was a complete transformation. 2 months later, her 5 Qi unification was perfected. Her eyesight, hearing, smell and other senses had even surpassed her when she was at Jin Dan realm. This situation was too shocking. This was only Wu Dao's second transformation. Another 3 months passed. Wu Dao's third transformation was perfected copper skin and iron bones. At this point in her cultivation, Kitsune's body was even stronger than when she was at Jin Dan realm. It could be said that she was invulnerable. 4 months later, Wu Dao's fourth transformation was perfected at will. After Wu Dao's third and fourth transformations were perfected, Kitsune's body was a combination of toughness and gentleness. She was agile and her strength was comparable to pure-blooded ferocious beasts of the same cultivation realm. Wu Dao's 9 transformations had almost fully developed the potential of Kitsune's body. Time flew. In the blink of an eye, Su Zimo had already stayed in Baiming Town for a year. For the past year, he had spent most of his time resting in his room with his eyes closed, trying to communicate with heaven and earth to dispel the life-severing curse. However, there was no progress. On the other hand, Kitsune's cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. In just a year, she had already cultivated Wu Dao's 5th transformation, marrow cleansing and blood changing. She was only a step away from the 6th transformation, blood qi Jin Dan. "Mr. Su, I've already cultivated Wu Dao's 5th transformation to the realm of lead mercury blood. Can I try to condense the blood qi Jin Dan now?" Bai Mingshui was overjoyed. She had changed way too much in the past year. Others might not be able to sense it, but she knew that she had been reborn in just a year. Although she had yet to condense the blood qi Jin Dan, Kitsune believed that she could win against some perfected Jin Dan given her current combat strength. Lead mercury blood? It's not time yet. Su Zimo shook his head. If it was anyone else, they would be able to cultivate to lead mercury blood. However, you can't. You have to continue cultivating. Lead mercury blood is only at greater mastery of marrow cleansing. The mark of perfection is tsunami blood. Since Su Zimo had the intention to take in a disciple, he naturally wanted to help Kitsune lay down a perfect foundation without any mistakes. Tsunami blood. Kitsune's heart skipped a beat. She was once a perfected Jin Dan, and knew what tsunami blood was. However, was that possible? Even in the entire cultivation world, there were not many people who could cultivate to the tsunami blood realm, let alone the 3 aristocratic families. Tsunami blood is the limit of the power of the bloodline. Can I do it? Kitsune had doubts in her heart as well. No. Su Zimo shook his head. Tsunami blood is not the limit of the bloodline. Tsunami blood is not the limit. Kitsune was shocked. Right then a shout came from outside. "Sister, sister. I'm back." A slightly excited voice sounded. Right after, a burly young man barged into the courtyard with extremely rich spirit energy surging from his body. When he caught sight of Kitsune, he ran over excitedly. Sister, I've already formed my core and am now a perfected Jin Dan cultivator. Baiming Ao was only 13 years old. His talent was truly shocking to be able to cultivate to the Jin Dan realm at such a young age. However, in Su Zimo's opinion, it might not be a good thing for Baiming Ao to enter the Jin Dan realm so early. Core formation was not to be underestimated, and it was not necessarily better to enter it earlier. That was because there was a chance that a Jin Dan phenomenon would appear after forming a core. The more one accumulated before forming a core, the greater the chance and power of a Jin Dan phenomenon would be. Chapter 1330. Sure. Kitsune patted Baiming Ao on the shoulder gently. You've reached Jin Dan so quickly. You're even stronger than I was back then. Hee, that's not all. Baiming Ao said mysteriously. Sister, move aside. I'll let you have a look. Kitsune did not know what was going on, and retreated a couple of steps. Baiming Ao's expression darkened as he channeled his spirit energy. A boundless ocean appeared behind him, emitting an extremely cold aura. The temperature of the entire courtyard plummeted. Jin Dan phenomenon, Kitsune exclaimed. Nodding his head, Baiming Ao declared proudly. Sister, I've cultivated the legacy phenomenon of our Baiming family, the Northern Ocean. I'll definitely shock everyone in the aristocratic family competition this time round, and avenge you. Little brother, you must not be careless. Kitsune said hurriedly. Dongfang Xian and Dongfang Ji have both cultivated Jin Dan phenomenons. Furthermore, their cultivations are 2 or 3 cultivation realms higher than yours. You must not underestimate them. Sister, don't worry. There's still 2 years left. My cultivation will definitely be able to rise another level. We'll see then. Baiming Ao harumphed coldly. Thereafter, as though he had noticed something, Baiming Ao sized up Kitsune and said in confusion. Sister, you seem to have changed quite a bit as well. Cultivating Wu Dao had no spirit energy at all, and one could not tell their cultivation realms. In Baiming Ao's eyes, Kitsune was still a mortal without spirit energy. However, the aura that she unconsciously exuded was something that even a perfected Jin Dan being like him could feel oppressed. For the past year, I've also gained a lot from cultivating Wu Dao. Both siblings were focused on cultivation, and had not seen each other for a year. Kitsune did not hide anything, and shared her joy with her brother. Sister, are you still cultivating Wu Dao? Baiming Ao frowned slightly. In my opinion, that Wu Dao is a complete lie. Sister, there's no need for you to waste your time on it. Nonsense. Kitsune was somewhat displeased and said. In this 1 year, I've already cultivated Wu Dao's 5th transformation, marrow cleansing and blood changing. Baiming Ao curled his lips and said disdainfully. Sister, I feel like there's no way out of cultivating Wu Dao. Think about it. Even if you can condense the blood qi Jin Dan, you won't be able to produce the Jin Dan phenomenon. Your achievements will be limited. As for Wu Dao's 7th transformation, the 8th transformation's invincible Vajra transformation, and even the 9th transformation's strength of the dragon and elephant, I reckon that it's all just a figment of Araki Takashi's imagination. It's impossible for him to successfully cultivate it. Baiming Ao was right about some things. Indeed, cultivating Wu Dao would not give birth to the Jin Dan phenomenon. That was because the Jin Dan phenomenon was the pinnacle of spirit arts. After forming a core, the moment one's spirit energy resonated with heaven and earth, the Jin Dan phenomenon would be born. If one cultivated Wu Dao, there would be no spirit qi or spirit energy at all, and naturally, there would not be any Jin Dan phenomenon. Kitsune went silent, and did not argue with Baiming Ao anymore. Why are you still here? Sweeping his gaze, Baiming Ao could not help but frown when he caught sight of Su Zimo, who was not far away. With a stern expression, Baiming Ao walked slowly to Su Zimo, and exuded the might of a Jin Dan realm, suppressing the latter slowly as he asked in a deep voice. Who are you and what are your motives for coming to Baiming Town? Su Zimo merely lowered his head slightly, and looked at the young man with interest. Although he could not use his spirit consciousness, Qinglian's true body was still around. To him, the Jindan realm might of this young man was nothing more than a joke. "Little brother, don't be rude." Kitsune strode over and stood in front of Baiming Ao, saying, "Return to the clan's main hall to cultivate. Don't bother about what's going on here." Although Baiming Ao was young and impetuous, he was extremely obedient towards Kitsune and would never dare to go against her wishes. Consider yourself lucky," Baiming Ao said. "If I find out that you're plotting against the Baiming family, I'll punish you severely even if my sister is protecting you." With that, Baiming Ao flicked his sleeves and left proudly. "Mr. Su, I'm still young and a child." Kitsune bowed to Su Zimo and said, "I apologize to you on behalf of my little brother." Su Zimo smiled, and naturally would not stoop to Baiming Ao's level. He was a meticulous person. When he saw Kitsune frowning slightly as though something was bothering her, he asked, "Why? Are you disappointed that Wu Dao can't cultivate the Jindan phenomenon?" Kitsune remained silent for a moment before nodding. In her opinion, so what if she could cultivate the blood qi Jindan? Against a cultivator like Dongfang Ji who had cultivated the Jindan phenomenon, she would still be defeated. The Jindan phenomenon is merely the pinnacle of spirit arts. It's not invincible. Su Zimo said indifferently, "As long as you're strong enough, you can break it with a wave of your hand. As the saying goes, a single brute force can defeat 10. If you can cultivate to the level of indestructible Vajra, you'll be able to suppress most Jindan phenomenons with your body alone. If you can cultivate to the power of the dragon elephant, you'll be the #1 perfected being." Su Zimo was the only one who would dare to say something like that. Su Zimo was the only one who had the qualifications. Kitsune's eyes lit up gradually. Su Zimo continued, "Also, while it's true that Wu Dao doesn't have the Jindan phenomenon, Wu Dao has the bloodline phenomenon. The pinnacle of the bloodline is the bloodline phenomenon." "Bloodline phenomenon," Kitsune murmured softly. Before long, Kitsune took a deep breath and said excitedly, "Mr. Su, I understand now. Thank you for your guidance." Su Zimo nodded. Suddenly, Su Zimo's expression changed as though he sensed something. "Mr. Su." Sensing Su Zimo's abnormality, Kitsune asked probingly, "It's nothing. Go and cultivate." Su Zimo waved it off and dismissed Kitsune with joy in his eyes. Earlier on, he had sensed the existence of the true bodies of dragons once more. The true bodies of the dragons woke up slowly and sensed the wooden bed beneath them. They opened their eyes and looked at the roof. This was not the void turbulence. There would definitely not be a wooden bed with a roof in the void turbulence. The true bodies of the dragons did not say anything, nor were they in a hurry to get up. They checked their bodies first. It had to be said that the bloodline of the true bodies of the dragons was indeed strong, and their regeneration capabilities were shocking. Even though they were severely injured in the Battle of Heaven and Earth Valley, they were still fine, and their bodies recovered without any injuries. Qinglian's true body was still troubled by the life-severing curse. However, the true bodies of the dragons were not troubled at all. Back in Heaven and Earth Valley, the spirit turtle in their consciousness had already suppressed the power of the life-severing curse completely. The ears of the true bodies of the dragons twitched, and they sniffed again. He could vaguely hear the sound of tides crashing against the reef shore. Furthermore, he caught a whiff of the stench of seawater. Where is this? Could I have been teleported to the beach? The true bodies of the dragons sat up slowly on the bed. Just as they were about to get up and leave, they looked at where they were, and could not help but be shocked. There was someone sitting in the room. However, he did not notice it at all. Chapter 1331. It was a young woman with watery eyes and black hair that cascaded down like a waterfall. Dressed in red robes, she sat in the room motionlessly and looked at the true bodies of the dragons. Su Zimo was in a daze and almost mistook her for Daiyu right away. However, he soon realized that although this woman was beautiful, her aura was far inferior to Daiyu's. Daiyu's powerful, confident and condescending aura was like a sovereign descending upon the world. No one could compare to her. However, Su Zimo was still shocked when he swept his spirit consciousness across the young woman. Conjoint body realm. This young woman was a conjoint body mighty figure. He could imagine that if a conjoint body mighty figure had tried to harm him while he was unconscious, he would have been a corpse by now. However, Su Zimo was certain that he had never seen this woman before. Su Zimo could not sense any hostility in the eyes of the young woman. On the contrary, the young girl looked at him with a strange gaze, as if she was examining him, as if she was curious, as if there was something unusual in her gaze. "You're awake," the young woman spoke slowly. "Who are you? Where is this?" Su Zimo asked in a deep voice without letting down his guard. It had been a year since the battle at Heaven and Earth Valley. Everyone knew that he was on bad terms with the various major sects and factions of the immortal Buddhist and Fiend sects, as well as the primordial 6 races. No matter where he was not safe. After all, no sect or faction in Tianhuang mainland would dare to take him in at the risk of becoming enemies with the various super sects, or even the primordial races. "You don't have to worry about any danger. No one can hurt you here," the young woman said indifferently. Su Zimo was stunned. Pausing for a moment, the young woman said slowly, "This is Divine Phoenix Island." Su Zimo was shocked when he heard the words Divine Phoenix Island. Earlier on, he had thought of many possibilities. However, he had not expected that he would have already left Tianhuang mainland and arrived at Divine Phoenix Island, that was billions of miles away in the South Ocean. Divine Phoenix Island was one of the 2 super factions. The other island was called Penglai Island and was located in the East Ocean. Even with the major transference talisman, it was difficult for Su Zimo to travel such a long distance from Tianhuang mainland to Divine Phoenix Island. That was only possible with ancient teleportation formations. Of course, the reason why Su Zimo was so shocked was not only because he was teleported to Divine Phoenix Island, but because he was inextricably linked to Divine Phoenix Island the moment he started cultivating. His right hand was the Divine Phoenix bone. In the cultivation world, there was a rumor that an immortal Divine Phoenix had fallen from Divine Phoenix Island and left behind a Divine Phoenix bone. That was the reason why many cultivators in the elementary ancient battlefield thought that he was the successor of Divine Phoenix Island. Furthermore, Divine Phoenix Island. Legend has it that in ancient times, the Saber Emperor fled to Tianhuang mainland and headed to the South Sea. That was the reason why the Sword Dao reigned supreme in the Tianhuang mainland. Divine Phoenix Saber was Saber. The Saber in the ancient Su Zimo had obtained the Sea Calming Manual. Later on, Yen Beichen imparted the title manual to him as well. This meant that he had obtained the complete inheritance of the Saber Emperor. To think that he would truly step foot on this land one day. "Fellow Taoist, how should I address you?" the young woman asked. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. The fact that the young woman did not know him meant that there was a high chance that the news of the battle in Heaven and Earth Valley had not reached Divine Phoenix Island yet. After all, Divine Phoenix Island was far away in the South Ocean and was billions of miles away from Tianhuang mainland. It was only natural that they disappeared. At the same time, Su Zimo felt that something was amiss from the way the young woman addressed him. She was a conjoint body mighty figure, while he was only Dharma Daojun. Normally speaking, fellow Taoists would only address each other if they were of the same cultivation realm or were of the same generation. However, this woman's attitude towards him was strange. Pondering for a moment, Su Zimo said, "I'm Long Mo." Immediately after, Su Zimo asked instead, "Fellow Taoist, how should I address you?" "I'm Mo Ing, a saber attendant of Divine Phoenix Island." The woman replied. "Saber attendant?" Su Zimo was stunned. Mo Ing explained, "Every generation, Divine Phoenix Island will have a saber attendant to cultivate and protect the Dragon Soul Saber. The saber attendant will acknowledge whoever wields the Dragon Soul Saber as their master." Dragon Soul Saber? Su Zimo was even more confused. Mo Ing explained patiently. The Dragon Soul Saber was forged by the Saber Emperor in the ancient era, after he personally killed an ancestral dragon. He took its dragon bone and supplemented it with deep-sea frost iron, before fusing it with the ancestral dragon's soul. This Dragon Soul Saber is a connate dermic treasure, and is an utmost treasure left behind by the Saber Emperor for Divine Phoenix Island. Slaying an ancestral dragon, taking its bone and soul to refine it into a saber. Su Zimo was secretly speechless. Such methods were truly frightening, as expected of the Saber Emperor. After thinking for a moment, Su Zimo asked again, "In that case, it must be difficult for me to wield the Dragon Soul Saber." Emoing nodded. Only someone with the Divine Phoenix Bone can subdue the Dragon Soul Saber. Su Zimo's expression changed slightly. Emoing said, "It's no secret that you have the Divine Phoenix Bone. If not for the existence of the Divine Phoenix Bone, the experts on the island wouldn't have been able to sense your aura, and it would have been even more impossible for them to rescue you from the void turbulence." Su Zimo was enlightened. It was not an accident that he was teleported to Divine Phoenix Island. It was because of the existence of the Divine Phoenix Bone that the experts of Divine Phoenix Island sensed something amiss and rescued him from the void turbulence. "You mean to say that there's a chance for me to wield the Dragon Soul Saber?" Su Zimo asked again. "That's a possibility," Emoing said. "However, your cultivation realm is too low, and you're only at the Dharma characteristic realm. It'll probably be difficult for you to subdue the Dragon Soul Saber. That connate dermic weapon contains the soul of the ancestral dragon and is extremely violent. Ordinary cultivators won't even be able to get close to it." Pausing for a moment, Emoing changed the topic. "However, you're the successor of that senior. If you advance to the conjoint body realm, there's still a chance for you to wield the Dragon Soul Saber." Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat as he understood what Emoing was implying. "That senior?" Su Zimo glared at Emoing and asked slowly, "Who are you referring to?" "I don't know." Emoing shook his head with a hint of respect in his eyes as he recalled. "I only know that she was a woman in blood-colored robes." At that point, Su Zimo no longer had any doubts. Dayu had been to Divine Phoenix Island before. Back when he was severely injured, Dayu left for a period of time. During this period of time, Dayu's traces had gradually become clearer. She had been to the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley, suppressed the blood face, and snatched the Soraka flower. She had also been to Divine Phoenix Island and suppressed someone to snatch the Divine Phoenix Bone. Those two utmost treasures were the two gifts that Dayu had given to Su Zimo. They played a crucial role in his cultivation path. "I've never seen a woman as strong as her. She's arrogant and incomparable." All of the powerhouses of Divine Phoenix Island have been alarmed, but none of them have been able to stop her. Emo Ying's voice turned increasingly excited. In fact, Su Zimo could even see an inexplicable fanaticism and fanatical worship in her eyes. Chapter 1332. With just a few words from Emo Ying, Su Zimo's mind was filled with the image of a blood-red sovereign descending and sweeping through Divine Phoenix Island, intimidating everyone. Su Zimo was silent. At the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley, although Dayu appeared for a short period of time, the red-headed ghost was still wary and shocked at the mention of Dayu. Emoing lowered her head slightly with a flushed face. Tugging at her red robe, she said, "Ever since that day, I've also become fond of wearing red robes. However, I'm far inferior compared to that senior." Su Zimo was a little stunned. Emoing did not even know who Dayu was or what her name was, and yet, she had already fallen for her completely. By the looks of it, she would not hesitate even if Dayu asked her to die. However, Su Zimo was still puzzled. Logically speaking, Dayu descended on Divine Phoenix Island, snatched the Divine Phoenix Bone, and even fought with the experts of the island. Everyone of Divine Phoenix Island should hate him to the core. Although Dayu had also snatched away an utmost treasure, it was understandable that Monk Yuan Bei and the red-headed ghost viewed Su Zimo in a different light. That was because Dayu had descended on the Dragon Burial Valley and discovered the existence of the blood face. That was equivalent to helping Monk Yuan Bei and the red-headed ghost resolve a huge disaster. However, why did Divine Phoenix Island do that? Could Divine Phoenix Island have a blood face as well? Su Zimo tried asking. After that blood-robed woman descended, did she discover any hidden dangers on the island and help resolve them? No. Emoing shook her head. confused as to why Su Zimo would ask that. Emoing said, when that senior descended, she wanted to take away the divine phoenix bone directly. However, the experts of the island naturally did not allow it, and both sides fought. In the end, the experts of the island lost miserably. Su Zimo was not surprised by that outcome. Emoing continued, that senior said that the divine phoenix bone did not belong to Divine Phoenix Island, but a relic of her friend. Her friend? Su Zimo was confused. Emoing said, in truth, there was originally a bone left behind by a divine phoenix on Divine Phoenix Island. However, about 200 years ago, another immortal phoenix fell onto the island. 200 years ago? Su Zimo fell into deep thought. He should have discovered Daiyu outside Pingyang town, more than 200 years ago as well. She did not know if the two of them were related. When this godly phoenix landed on the island, it was already severely injured and on the verge of death. Thus it began to burn itself and undergo nirvana. Legend had it that the Divine Phoenix and Divine Phoenix clan had the ability to undergo nirvana. Once he succeeded, he would be able to come back from the dead and become even more powerful. Of course, if one failed to undergo rebirth, then one would naturally die, and only one thing would be left behind. The Divine Phoenix would leave behind a drop of Divine Phoenix blood essence, and the Divine Phoenix would leave behind a bone, which was the Divine Phoenix bone. Emoing continued, it's a pity that this Divine Phoenix failed in its nirvana, and only a piece of Divine Phoenix bone was left in its ashes. This bone is the Divine Phoenix bone that the senior took away. Su Zimo let out a long breath. At this point many things were clear. If Daiyu was not wrong, the friend she was referring to should be the fallen immortal phoenix. The bone left behind by the Divine Phoenix, after its nirvana, was the Divine Phoenix bone in Su Zimo's right hand right now. The reason why Divine Phoenix Island did not have any enmity towards him was partly because of Daiyu's strength. Secondly, it was because the Divine Phoenix bone did not belong to Divine Phoenix Island to begin with. Emoing said, actually Divine Phoenix Island has been waiting for your arrival. The experts on the island know that the successor of that senior, the person who possesses the Divine Phoenix bone, will definitely come here. Su Zimo thought for a moment and said, according to you, Divine Phoenix Island has a Divine Phoenix bone in the past? Yes, Emoing nodded. However, this Divine Phoenix bone already has an owner. It's a heavenly phoenix mighty figure on the island. Another conjoint body mighty figure. Furthermore, it was a conjoint body mighty figure who possessed the Divine Phoenix bone. Emoing said, however, the heavenly phoenix mighty figure has not been able to subdue the dragon soul saber all these years. Su Zimo furrowed his brows slightly. If even a conjoint body mighty figure could not subdue the dragon soul saber, it seemed like this saber truly had some tricks up its sleeves. Take a rest first, Emoing said. When you're feeling better, I'll bring you to see the island master. The island master was the one who rescued you from the void turbulence personally. Su Zimo nodded. I'm fine now. I can go and pay my respects to the island master of Divine Phoenix Island, and thank her personally. Right then, Su Zimo frowned and shifted his gaze towards the door of the room. For some reason, he could not hear anything. However, his spirit perception fluctuated as though someone was approaching, and was right at the door. At that moment, Emoing was sitting opposite Su Zimo, and was even closer to the door. However, he did not sense anything. What's wrong? When Emoing saw Su Zimo's strange expression, he looked towards the door instinctively as well. Dong! Dong! Knock sounded. Who is it? Emoing stood up and asked. It's me. A man's voice sounded gentle and magnetic. Emoing stood up and opened the door, bowing slightly to the person. Greetings, mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix. Mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix. The other person on Divine Phoenix Island who possessed the Divine Phoenix bone. Su Zimo's gaze landed on the mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix. The man looked to be in his 30s, and was dressed in white robes. He was rather refined, and had a gentle expression as he looked towards Su Zimo as well. Their gazes met in midair. The mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix nodded slightly, and smiled at Su Zimo in a friendly manner. Su Zimo stood up as well, and cupped his fists towards the mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix. I'm Suzimo. This is my first time on your island. Greetings, mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix. What island? You have the Divine Phoenix bone. So you're a member of Divine Phoenix Island. The mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix smiled. There's no need to stand on ceremony, since you're on the island. Just treat Divine Phoenix Island as your home. Suzimo smiled as well. The mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix pondered for a moment and suddenly asked, I have a presumptuous request. I wonder if Brother Longemo can take out your Divine Phoenix bone for me to take a look. Suzimo frowned slightly and hesitated for a moment. However, he still extended his right hand and said, My right palm is the Divine Phoenix bone. There was no need to hide that. The mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix's eyes lit up, and he clicked his tongue in wonder. Impressive. The mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix praised. To think that there would be such a method in the world to connect the Divine Phoenix bone to the tendons, bones, and bloodline of a human. This can really be called a divine ability of the supernatural. The mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix flipped his palm and held a fiery red bone piece. Brother Longemo, please take a look. My Divine Phoenix bone is like this. Although the Divine Phoenix bone belonged to the mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix, it was not connected to his bloodline and could only be considered as a supreme treasure on him. The mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix seemed to be interested and asked again, Where is that senior? May I have the honor of paying him a visit? Chapter 1333. In the eyes of the Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure, Suzimo could also see heartfelt admiration and anticipation. However, for some reason, Suzimo felt a strange feeling in his heart. Suzimo shook his head. She left a long time ago. Left? She hasn't returned after all these years? The Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure asked again. Mo Ing, who was at the side, was looking forward to it as well. Suzimo shook his head. The Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure had a disappointed expression and said regretfully, I wasn't on the island that day and went out to train. As such, I didn't get to meet that senior. I merely heard the descriptions of the cultivators on the island, and it was already admirable. To think that I wouldn't have the chance to see senior's glory again. What a pity. The Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure swept his gaze across Suzimo and changed the topic with a smile. If I'm not wrong, Brother Suzimo, you're no longer human, right? Normally, the bloodline of dragons' true bodies would be hidden and dormant, flowing slowly without revealing any demonic chi. However, the Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure was indeed sharp and could tell that something was amiss. Suzimo nodded and did not hide anything. Divine Phoenix Island was one of the 2 islands and was a super faction of the cultivation world. It was on par with the 9 immortal sects, 7 fiend sects, and 6 Buddhist monasteries. There were many experts on the island, and this matter could not be hidden. The Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure smiled. Brother Longemo, there's no need to worry. Unlike the immortal Buddhist and fiend sects, Divine Phoenix Island is not tolerant of fiend demons. Divine Phoenix Island is a sea that embraces all rivers and embraces all races. The cultivators on this island are not all humans. There are also tens of thousands of monsters, birds, beasts, fish, turtles, and sea monsters. All living beings are equal. All are treated equally. Oh, Suzimo was shocked. Among the immortal Buddhist and fiend sects, there was only a single reason why demons could exist in the sects. They were reared by humans as mounts or spirit beasts. None of the sects would accept demons as their successors. Slaying demons and purging fiends was the mission and responsibility of many righteous cultivators. This was also the reason why many factions had attacked Suzimo so recklessly in the name of eliminating evil. Many sects even disregarded their reputation and sent out cultivators, who were 1 or 2 realms higher than Suzimo, to kill him at all costs. Suzimo didn't expect that there would be such a force in the cultivation world that was so tolerant of all races. The Heavenly Phoenix Mighty One tilted her body slightly and whispered mysteriously to Suzimo. To be honest, Brother Suzimo, although I was originally a human, half of the blood flowing in my body is not human. Haha. Suzimo and Wang Chong looked at each other and smiled. Their relationship seemed to have become much closer. This mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix was smooth and slick. Although he was a conjoint body mighty figure, he did not put on any airs. He had the ability to make others let down their guard and trust him. However, he couldn't explain why. Su Zimo's impression of this Heavenly Phoenix Almighty being was inferior to Mo Ying's, who was silently standing to the side. Mo Ying seemed more realistic. Of course, Su Zimo was new to Divine Phoenix Island and was unfamiliar with the place. It was normal for him to be wary of the people on the island. Brother Long Mo, how's your recovery? The Heavenly Phoenix Mighty One asked again. Su Zimo smiled. I'm fine now. The Heavenly Phoenix Mighty One laughed out loud. That's good. I'll take the liberty to bring you around Divine Phoenix Island, Brother Long Mo. I'll show you the scenery of the island and introduce the local customs here. How about that? Initially, Su Zimo wanted to pay a visit to the island master of Divine Phoenix Island. But now that the Heavenly Phoenix Mighty One was so enthusiastic, he could not refuse and nodded in agreement. It was good to take a tour around Divine Phoenix Island and gain a rough understanding of it. It would not be too late to pay a visit to the island master of Divine Phoenix Island after that. Brother Long Mo, please. The Heavenly Phoenix Mighty One pushed open the door and made an inviting gesture. I wouldn't dare. Senior Heavenly Phoenix, please. Su Zimo declined modestly. The Heavenly Phoenix Mighty One did not decline and left the room first. Without anyone noticing, he leaped and floated into the air. Su Zimo and Mo Ying followed closely behind. After leaving the room, a damp and salty smell wafted over. It was the smell of seawater. The rumbling sounds in their ears were even clearer. Arriving in midair, Su Zimo looked over and could not help but reveal a look of shock. They were hovering above a gigantic island. The island was thousands of miles wide and occupied an extremely large area. However, such a vast island seemed extremely tiny in the face of the endless and majestic sea. Su Zimo had seen the Spirit Sea before and comprehended the Tao there. He had also seen the thousand-year Blood Sea and encountered fatal danger within. However, this was the first time he had seen a true sea up till this point of his cultivation. It was much more majestic and shocking than the Spirit Sea, or the thousand-year Blood Sea. The waves rolled and rumbled. The deep blue sea rose and thousands of gigantic waves rolled over. No one knew how many sea monsters and fiend demons were hidden beneath the surface of the sea, and what sort of terrifying threats were hidden. Notwithstanding that, the might of the sea alone was enough to shock one's soul. As he looked at the sea, a thought flashed through Su Zimo's mind, and he had a new understanding of the tidal manual and sea calming manual. Mo Ying noticed that and nodded secretly. This was a state of epiphany. If it lasted for a longer period of time, it would bring unimaginable benefits to one's cultivation. Many cultivators broke through their cultivation realms, or even crossed major cultivation realms in a state of epiphany. Brother Long Mo, look over there. Right then, the Heavenly Phoenix Mighty One nudged Su Zimo gently and pointed into the distance with a smile. Those are the guards of Divine Phoenix Island. Not only are there humans, there are also some demons. The moment Su Zimo was touched by the Heavenly Phoenix Mighty One, he woke up from his state of epiphany. Mo Ying frowned, feeling a little regretful. She did not think that the Heavenly Phoenix Mighty One did it on purpose. However, epiphanies were rare. Now that Su Zimo had woken up, who knew how long it would take for him to enter a state of epiphany again? Su Zimo's expression was unchanged. In truth, just now, his epiphany was very shallow, and the things he could comprehend were limited. Even if he was not disturbed by the Heavenly Phoenix Mighty One, it was impossible for him to break through the Dharma characteristic realm and enter the conjoint body realm. Following the Heavenly Phoenix Mighty One's gaze, Su Zimo saw a group of cultivators riding on gigantic seabirds patrolling around Divine Phoenix Island. Every single cultivator was at the nascent soul realm. The Heavenly Phoenix Mighty One continued to lead Su Zimo forward, seemingly oblivious to what was happening just now as she continued to introduce the local customs of Divine Phoenix Island. Many Divine Phoenix Island guards passed by the three of them. When they saw the Heavenly Phoenix Mighty One, they leaped down from their seabirds with respectful expressions and bowed. It could be felt that the Heavenly Phoenix Mighty One had extremely high prestige on Divine Phoenix Island. Right then, the Heavenly Phoenix Mighty One said in a seemingly casual manner, "Moing, there's nothing else. You can go and do your things first. I'll accompany Brother Long Mo." Moing hesitated for a moment before shaking her head. "It's fine. I'm a saber attendant of Divine Phoenix Island. There's nothing else. I'll accompany the two of you." Chapter 1334. The Heavenly Phoenix Mighty Figure said, "Speaking of sabers, have you heard of the Dragon Soul Saber, Brother Long Mo?" "I just heard about it," Suzimo said. The Heavenly Phoenix Mighty Figure pointed to a round building that towered into the clouds not far away. "That's the Dragon Soul Hall, and the Dragon Soul Saber is suppressed inside. Brother Long Mo, you have the Divine Phoenix Bone, and there's a chance you can wield the Dragon Soul Saber. Since you're already here, why don't you give it a try?" On Divine Phoenix Island, only 2 people possessed the Divine Phoenix Bone. Only with the Divine Phoenix Bone could one subdue the Dragon Soul Saber. In other words, from a certain perspective, Suzimo was a match for the Heavenly Phoenix Mighty Figure. But now, the Heavenly Phoenix Mighty Figure did not show any hostility. Instead, he took the initiative to invite him, appearing rather magnanimous. "Should we pay a visit to the Island Master first?" Moing frowned slightly. The Heavenly Phoenix Mighty Figure smiled gently. "There's no conflict between the two. I can send someone to inform the Island Master to meet at the Dragon Soul Hall. At that time, Brother Long Mo might truly wield the Dragon Soul Saber. Coincidentally, the Island Master is present and can bear witness. Leji, report to the Island Master that Brother Long Mo and I are heading to the Dragon Soul Hall. Please come with us." The Heavenly Phoenix Mighty Figure waved his hand and instructed a guard of Divine Phoenix Island not far away. "Understood." The guard of Divine Phoenix Island left without hesitation. Heavenly Phoenix Mighty Figure, young Master Long Mo's cultivation realm, is only at the Dharma characteristic realm. Even with the Divine Phoenix Bone, it'll be difficult for him to wield the Dragon Soul Saber. Moing said, "I suggest that it's not too late to try after young Master Long Mo enters the conjoint body realm. It doesn't matter if we try. What if we succeed?" The Heavenly Phoenix Almighty rejected Mo Ying's suggestion in a neutral manner. But Moing wanted to argue again. After all, the Dragon Soul Saber was extremely terrifying and violent. If one could not withstand it, they would face extreme danger, and might even be severely injured. "Let's do as you say, Senior Heavenly Phoenix. I want to take a look as well." Suzimo agreed with a fake smile. Moing sighed in his heart. He was slightly worried. The Heavenly Phoenix Mighty Figure laughed. "Brother Long Mo is indeed straightforward. Let's go." The Heavenly Phoenix Almighty took the lead. His figure turned into a stream of light as he sped toward the Dragon Soul Hall. Suzimo and Moing followed closely behind. Looking at the back of the Heavenly Phoenix Mighty Figure, Suzimo seemed to be deep in thought. 2 guards guarded the entrance of the Dragon Soul Hall. One was tall, and the other was short. Both of them were at the Dharma characteristic realm. "Greetings, Senior Brother Sky Phoenix." The 2 guards bowed respectfully. "Jing Sheng Jing Ming rise. No need to be so courteous." The Heavenly Phoenix Mighty Figure nodded slightly and said, "Are you 2 brothers on duty today?" "Exactly." The taller one on the left was called Jing Sheng. He said, "Senior Martial Brother Sky Phoenix, do you want to try subduing the Dragon's Soul Saber again? This is a major event on the island." At this moment, many cultivators on the island gradually gathered when they saw the Heavenly Phoenix Mighty Figure and the other 2 arriving in front of the Dragon Soul Hall. "It wasn't me. It was Brother Long Mo." The Heavenly Phoenix Mighty Figure pointed at Suzimo. "Brother Long Mo has the Divine Phoenix Bone as well. He's the one trying this time round." The gazes of the 2 Dao Lords, Jing Ming and Jing Sheng, landed on Suzimo, and their faces were filled with hostility and repulsion. "Fufu, you want to wield the Dragon's Soul Saber when you're only at the Dharma characteristic realm? I don't know if you're ignorant or arrogant. Do you think that you can subdue the Dragon's Soul Saber just because you have the Divine Phoenix Bone? I can only say that you're too naive." The 2 Dharma Daojun, Jing Ming and Jing Sheng, did not hide their thoughts and mocked without holding back. Su Zimo smiled without saying anything. The two Dharma Daojun were not shrewd and said whatever they thought. They were rather sincere, and did not pose much of a threat to Su Zimo. "Shut up, the two of you." Emoing frowned and shouted softly. Although they were facing a conjoint body mighty figure, Jing Ming and Jing Sheng, the two Dharma Daojun, did not show any fear. Jing Sheng was a little indignant. He's an outsider who has just arrived at Divine Phoenix Island, and he's already trying to wield the dragon's soul saber. What is he trying to do? Is he trying to climb above senior brother Heavenly Phoenix? Don't be rude. The Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure reprimanded the two of them as well. I was the one who invited Brother Long Emo here. The two of you don't have to say anything. He's not an outsider. Right then, a voice sounded from afar. By the time everyone looked over, the person had already arrived at the entrance of Dragon Soul Hall. That person wore blue robes with Jade Sea raging waves embroidered on it. He looked to be in his middle age, and exuded the might of someone who had been in power for a long time. "Greetings, Island Lord." Mo Ing, the Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure, and the others bowed and replied in unison. "The Island Lord of Divine Phoenix Island." Su Zimo's expression turned serious and he hurriedly bowed as well, saying in a deep voice, "I'm Su Zimo. Greetings, Island Lord. Thank you for saving my life." The Island Lord of Divine Phoenix Island nodded, and swept his gaze past Jing Ming and Jing Sheng, before looking at the other cultivators surrounding them. He declared, "Long Mo has the Divine Phoenix bone on him. He's someone of Divine Phoenix Island, and no one can treat him as an outsider." With those words, the Island Lord of Divine Phoenix Island had acknowledged Su Zimo. The Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure did not say anything the entire time, and merely nodded with a smile, as though he agreed with the Island Lord of Divine Phoenix Island. "Let's go. Since we're already at Dragon Soul Hall, let's go in and take a look." The Island Lord of Divine Phoenix Island glanced at Su Zimo and instructed, "If you can't withstand it, don't force it. Retreat in time and nothing major will happen." Su Zimo nodded. The doors of Dragon Soul Hall opened, and a shocking baneful aura surged over, causing the expressions of many Divine Phoenix Island cultivators to change. That was the ancestral dragon baneful aura of the Dragon Soul Saber, and it was extremely powerful. If they were too close, the baneful aura would be enough to kill the Dharma Daojun. However, Su Zimo's expression was calm. That aura was familiar, and made him feel close to it. The bloodline of dragons in his body stirred. Su Zimo smiled. Initially, he was unsure about the Dragon Soul Saber. But now, he truly wanted to give it a try. Notwithstanding the strength of the Dragon Soul Saber, if he could obtain the loyalty of a conjoint body mighty figure by wielding the Dragon Soul Saber, that was definitely worth a try. After a brief pause, the Island Lord of Divine Phoenix Island led the way. Thereafter, many cultivators filed in. They walked along a long corridor, and before long, their vision cleared up. Ahead of them was a gigantic secret chamber. The four walls of the secret chamber were embedded with thick chains. There were at least 100 of them. The other end of the chain was locked onto the body of a long saber. The saber was snow white, and one could clearly see that there was a segment of the spine of dragons within the saber. It was tough, powerful, and unshakable. The saber was shrouded with streams of dragon chi, almost taking form. Dragon Soul Saber. The fact that the Dragon Soul Saber was suppressed here by 100 chains showed how terrifying the saber was. Clang! Clang! Sensing that someone was approaching, the Dragon Soul Saber buzzed and trembled. Suddenly, it burst forth with a violent saber chi that spread in all directions. The saber chi slashed against the chains, creating a series of sparks. Chapter 1335. Many cultivators stopped in their tracks the moment they entered the hall. If they took another step forward, they would have to endure the sharp saber chi of the Dragon Soul Saber. The Dragon Soul Saber was extremely domineering. Although it was imprisoned here, any living being that stepped into its domain would be attacked crazily by it. Regardless of their cultivation, even conjoint body mighty figures and half-martial ancestors were no exception. Long Mo, go on. The Divine Phoenix Island Lord nodded slightly, indicating for Su Zimo to head forward. Su Zimo nodded and began walking towards the Dragon Soul Saber. Jing Ming surveyed his surroundings and asked, "Everyone, guess how far Long Mo can go?" "I reckon that Long Mo can't withstand it until he's 50 feet away from the Dragon Soul Saber." "Yes, 50 feet is the limit. The Dharma Daojun is courting death if he steps within 50 feet. However, Long Mo has the Divine Phoenix Bone and should be able to get within 30 feet of it. It'll be impossible for him to advance any further." "That's right. Back when Senior Brother Heavenly Phoenix was at the Dharma characteristic realm, he only stopped 30 feet away." The cultivators discussed softly. Su Zimo had already stepped into the attack range of the Dragon Soul Saber. However, many saber chi slashed against the body of the dragon's true body and could not even stop him in his tracks. Su Zimo's back was facing the crowd, and the smile in his eyes intensified. If it was any other Khanate cardinal treasure, even a mighty figure Heavenly Phoenix with the Divine Phoenix Bone would not be able to subdue it. There was a high chance that Su Zimo would not be able to do it either. However, the Dragon Soul Saber was different. The body of the Dragon Soul Saber was based on the ancestral dragon's bone and soul. In the Dragon Bone Valley, when Su Zimo underwent the baptism and awakened his innate divine powers, the ancestral dragon sensed that the taboo bloodline in his body had already submitted. In fact, it even imparted the divine power of the ancestral dragon divine pillar to Su Zimo. Could the ancestral dragon in the Dragon Soul Saber defend against the taboo aura? 50 feet. In the blink of an eye, Su Zimo was already within 50 feet. However, he showed no signs of stopping. To be precise, his steps were exactly the same from the beginning to the end, as if they had been precisely measured. Even his speed was consistent, as if he was taking a leisurely stroll. The ferocious saber intents in the eyes of others were completely harmless when they landed on the true bodies of the dragons. They turned into wisps of chi of the ancestral dragon and surged into Su Zimo's body. For Zhang, 30 feet. In the blink of an eye, Su Zimo was only 30 feet away from the Dragon Soul Saber. Jing Ming and Jing Sheng's expressions changed slightly. The discussions in the crowd gradually died down as they stared intently at the figure walking towards the Dragon Soul Saber. Only the Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure smiled with a relaxed expression. He knew that it was impossible for the Dharma Daojun to wield the Dragon Soul Saber. Tu Zhang, 10 feet, 5 feet. Su Zimo was within reach of the Dragon Soul Saber. This? Mo Ying's eyes shone brightly, revealing a bit of expectation. The island master of Divine Phoenix Island narrowed her eyes as well, as though she was waiting for something. The Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure still had a smile on his face. However, that smile seemed to have turned stiff. Su Zimo looked at the Dragon Soul Saber not far away and reached out slowly with his right hand, grabbing the hilt of the Dragon's Soul Saber. The moment Su Zimo gripped the hilt of the Dragon's Soul Saber, a majestic dragon roar sounded from within. Immediately after, a powerful ancestral dragon aura surged through the hilt and surged into Su Zimo's flesh. Bam! 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 The chains on the four walls snapped one after another, and countless gravel rolled down, drowning Su Zimo's figure instantly in a terrifying manner. The terrifying saber chi condensed into a saber that surged into the skies like an ancestral dragon. Boom! The entire secret chamber was sliced into two by the saber. The crowd was shocked. Everyone retreat. Long Mo is already dead and was killed by the Dragon's Soul Saber. Jing Ming exclaimed. The crowd retreated one after another. The only ones standing on the spot were the island master of Divine Phoenix Island, the Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure, and Mo Ying. The three of them had high cultivation realms, and the island master of Divine Phoenix Island was a half-martial ancestor expert. She could see the situation in the secret chamber even more clearly. The three of them stared intently at the secret chamber before them. The crowd realized something as well, and hurriedly stopped in their tracks, looking over with widened eyes. The dust settled. A figure gradually appeared before everyone. Long Mo isn't dead? Jing Ming was a little confused. Judging from the situation earlier on, it was as though the world was about to be destroyed. Long Emo was in the center of the storm, but he was still alive? The heavenly phoenix mighty figure narrowed his eyes. His gaze landed on Su Zimo's right hand. There was a long saber in his hand. The dragon bone on the snow-white blade was clearly visible. The dragon's soul saber. Long Emo had succeeded. The island master of Divine Phoenix Island heaved a sigh of relief. Emoing was also relieved and looked delighted. How is that possible? Jingming shrieked and pointed at the dragon soul saber in Su Zimo's hands, stammering. "TT, that's the dragon soul saber. Impossible. You're at the Dharma characteristic realm." The crowd of cultivators also widened their eyes, dumbfounded. It had been tens of thousands of years since someone wielded the dragon soul saber in his previous life. To think that someone would finally wield the dragon soul saber again in this lifetime. However, this person was not the heavenly phoenix mighty figure in the hearts of the crowd, but an outsider. A hint of gloom flashed through the heavenly phoenix mighty figure's eyes. This scene was truly beyond his expectations. In fact, he even felt like he had shot himself in the foot. Su Zimo turned around with the dragon soul saber in his hands and smiled. "It's all thanks to Senior Heavenly Phoenix's kind invitation that I was lucky enough to wield the dragon soul saber." The Heavenly Phoenix's lips twitched, and he forced a smile as well. The island master of Divine Phoenix Island nodded slightly and declared, "Since the dragon soul saber already has a master, I can announce something. Long Emo is Divine Phoenix Island's island master." Before the island master of Divine Phoenix Island could finish, she was interrupted by the Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure. The Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure said in a deep voice, "Actually, the reason why I'm here is to give it a try and see if I can subdue the dragon soul saber. I hope that island master will give me a chance." "That's right," Jingming shouted immediately. "Senior brother Heavenly Phoenix hasn't tried yet. If he can subdue the dragon soul saber, this saber should belong to him." "That's right." Many cultivators nodded in agreement. The Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure had stayed in Divine Phoenix Island for a long time and had a solid foundation with high prestige. He was naturally not someone an outsider like Su Zimo could compare to. "That's against the rules," Emoing said decisively. "Whoever can wield the dragon soul saber will be the young master of Divine Phoenix Island. No one else is qualified." When he heard that, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. To think that there was such a meaning behind wielding the dragon soul saber. The person who wielded the dragon soul saber would be the young master of Divine Phoenix Island. It was no wonder why the cultivators of Divine Phoenix Island had such a huge reaction. For an outsider like him to become the young master of Divine Phoenix Island right after arriving at the island, most people would probably be indignant. The island master of Divine Phoenix Island looked troubled as she looked at Su Zimo. Su Zimo smiled and walked towards the Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure. He handed the dragon soul saber over and said, "It's all right. Senior Heavenly Phoenix, you can give it a try." "That's good as well." The island master of Divine Phoenix Island nodded. "That's fair as well. If both of you can subdue the dragon soul saber, we'll find another way to decide who's better." Chapter 1336. The Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure took a deep breath of air and reached out to take the dragon soul saber. Over the years, even though he had tried many times to subdue the dragon soul saber, he still did not dare to be careless. Initially, the dragon soul saber was still quiet in Su Zimo's hands. However, when the Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure took it over, it burst forth with a series of violent and sharp saber chi. The aura of the ancestral dragon spread, and the saber trembled wildly. The Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure's expression changed slightly as he shouted softly, "Quieten down." He flipped his palm and revealed his Divine Phoenix bone. Channeling his dermic powers, the Divine Phoenix bone turned red and transparent, as though it was burned through by fire. "Go!" The Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure pinched the Divine Phoenix bone and shone it at the dragon soul saber in his right hand. Instantly, a fiery light burst forth from the Divine Phoenix bone, emitting a scorching heat that seemed as though it could incinerate everything. It landed on the dragon soul saber. Su Zimo was extremely familiar with the aura of that fiery light. It was no different from the divine phoenix bone in his right hand. Roar! Upon receiving the divine phoenix flame, the dragon's soul saber trembled, as though it was extremely agitated, and let out a furious dragon roar. The saber chi became even stronger, and the aura of the ancestral dragon turned berserk as dragon might wantonly. Apart from the island master of Divine Phoenix Island, Mo Ing and Su Zimo, the expressions of the surrounding cultivators changed starkly as they retreated one after another, afraid that they would be implicated. Is he going to fail again? Jing Ming's eyes dimmed. Jing Sheng also sighed internally with a regretful expression. They were not the only ones. In the hearts of most cultivators of Divine Phoenix Island, although the Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure could not wield the dragon soul saber, he was already a young master in their hearts. All these years, the Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure had always been on Divine Phoenix Island and fought for them everywhere. He had made countless contributions and was extremely prestigious. Up till now, the Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure had never tasted defeat against someone of the same cultivation realm. It was nothing difficult for him to challenge someone of a higher cultivation realm. Although the island master of Divine Phoenix Island was a half-martial ancestor, the outcome of a life and death battle was still unpredictable. It was definitely not by luck that the Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure had such prestige in Divine Phoenix Island. Therefore, many Divine Phoenix Island cultivators were indignant when they saw that the Heavenly Phoenix Almighty figure was about to be defeated by an outsider. Su Zimo's expression was calm. It was extremely difficult to subdue the dragon soul saber with the divine phoenix bone. That was because the bloodline of the dragons was not weaker than that of the godly phoenixes. Su Zimo did not rely on the divine phoenix bone to make the dragon soul saber submit to him. It was because the dragon soul saber sensed the dragon phoenix aura in Su Zimo's body. Although it wasn't obvious, it was one of the 3 great taboos of the primordial era. Although it was his first time coming into contact with the Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure, Su Zimo could faintly sense an extremely terrifying power from the Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure. This Heavenly Phoenix Almighty was not simple. In the Dragon Soul Palace, the trembling of the dragon's soul saber was already becoming more and more intense, as though it could break free from the hands of the Heavenly Phoenix Almighty at any time. Humph! The Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure snorted coldly, as a look of determination flashed across his eyes. He bit the tip of his tongue and spat out a mouthful of scarlet blood. As soon as the blood spilled out, it was filled with a scorching aura. That aura was not weaker than the temperature emitted by the divine phoenix bone. Whoosh! When the blood landed on the divine phoenix bone, it evaporated instantly. Amidst the lingering fog, a heart-palpitating aura spread out, as if an extremely terrifying existence was awakening. The surrounding cultivators were aghast and their eyes were filled with fear. Against that aura, they had the urge to prostrate in worship. It was not only the human race. All the other races present, be it ancient remnant beasts or pure-blooded ferocious beasts, revealed looks of fear. It was a fear that came from the depths of their bloodlines. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes, and his heart skipped a beat as well. The moment the Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure's blood fused with the divine phoenix bone, the bloodline in his body became restless. His dragon blood was boiling, and the divine phoenix bone was burning as well. This was a situation that had never happened before. What was even stranger was that the dragon's soul saber was initially still struggling. However, when it sensed that aura, it suddenly froze and quietened down, no longer trembling. Even the dragon's soul saber seemed to be intimidated by that aura. The Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure was delighted. However, the dragon's soul saber trembled once more before long. Clang! Clang! Immediately after, dragon chi emanated from the dragon's soul saber, and the phantom of an ancestral dragon was formed. It surged into the skies and let out a dragon roar that penetrated metal and shattered stone, shaking the palace. The Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure shuddered, and his expression changed starkly. The 2 berserk auras collided, and the divine phoenix bone in the Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure's left hand flew out. Without the suppression of the divine phoenix bone, The dragon's soul saber released its might completely. Saber chi spread and was extremely sharp, as though it could slice through the voids. The web between the heavenly phoenix mighty figure's thumb and index finger was torn apart instantly and blood gushed out. The intense pain stimulated his nerves. However, the heavenly phoenix mighty figure grit his teeth and refused to let go. Because of the pain, his facial features were contorted and squeezed together. Divine Phoenix Island's island master frowned and said in a deep voice, "Heavenly Phoenix, let go." The heavenly phoenix mighty figure said nothing and continued gripping the dragon's soul saber, refusing to let go. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The saber chi was berserk and extended upwards along the heavenly phoenix mighty figure's wrist. Right in front of the crowd, wounds appeared on the heavenly phoenix mighty figure's arm and blood seeped out. If this continued, the heavenly phoenix mighty figure's entire arm would be minced into pieces. Bang! Divine Phoenix Island's island master flicked his sleeves and released a domineering force that collided with the heavenly phoenix mighty figure's palm. The heavenly phoenix mighty figure loosened his grip, and the dragon's soul saber broke free, turning into a cold, white beam of light that returned to Suzimo instantly. Chi! The dragon's soul saber stabbed down into the ground in front of Suzimo, and the saber trembled. Nobody knew what happened in between. Why did the dragon's soul saber, that was initially silent, break free from the control of the heavenly phoenix mighty figure? Even Suzimo did not understand. But now, it was clear who had won and who had lost. This time round, even the surrounding cultivators fell silent. On the other side, the heavenly phoenix mighty figure was motionless with a terrible expression. His arm was drooping and dripping with blood, looking wretched. Of course, such injuries were nothing to conjoint body mighty figures. Even if his arm was severed, he could regrow it. However, the blow today was way too great for him. Even with his shrewdness, he could not hide the indignance and disappointment in his heart at that moment. Among the cultivators present, there was probably no one who knew better than him why he was defeated. I was just a step away, just a little bit more. The heavenly phoenix mighty figure lowered his head slightly, concealing the gloom in his eyes. Suzimo smiled at the heavenly phoenix mighty figure and cupped his fists. "Senior heavenly phoenix, thank you for letting me win." The heavenly phoenix mighty figure raised his head and smiled as well. The island master of Divine Phoenix Island declared, "Now that things have come to this, there's no more dispute. Long Emo, island master." Right then, Jingming could not hold it in any longer and stood out, saying in a deep voice, "The position of young master is no small matter. Longmo's background is unknown. Please reconsider, island master." "Island master, please listen to me." Jingxing bowed as well. "The young master of Divine Phoenix Island is the face of Divine Phoenix Island and cannot be weak. Otherwise, Divine Phoenix Island will be mocked by outsiders." Chapter 1337. The island master of Divine Phoenix Island raised his brow and asked instead, "What are you trying to say?" Jingxing said in a deep voice, "I suggest that senior brother Heavenly Phoenix and Long Emo fight. The winner will be the young master of Divine Phoenix Island." "That's right." Jingming chimed in. "Senior brother Heavenly Phoenix has been in Divine Phoenix Island for so long. That's the only way to be fair to him." "Fufu." Emoing sneered, "What a joke. Long Emo is only at the Dharma characteristic realm, and Heavenly Phoenix is a conjoint body mighty figure. There's no fairness in a fight between the two of them. Furthermore, the position of the young master of Divine Phoenix Island isn't something that can be decided by strength." As Jingming saw Emo Ying's anger, he was also a bit afraid. However, he braced himself and argued, "That doesn't mean that our combat strength is too weak. If anyone can suppress the Divine Phoenix Island's island master, then wouldn't my Divine Phoenix Island become a joke?" Jing Sheng's eyes darted around as he came up with a plan. Elder Emo Ying's words are not without reason. The two of them have different cultivation realms. This battle is indeed unfair. Since that's the case, I'll spar with fellow Taoist Long Emo. If fellow Taoist Long Emo can't even defeat me, then Fufu. Jing Sheng laughed and did not continue. The meaning behind his words was obvious. When he heard that, Su Zimo grinned at Jing Sheng. For some reason, when Jing Sheng saw Su Zimo smile, his heart skipped a beat and his hair stood on end. This feeling was as though he was being targeted by an extremely terrifying ferocious beast, and a calamity could befall him at any moment. Jing Sheng gulped and added worriedly, "Of course, even if I lose, it won't prove anything. My combat strength is ordinary to begin with. At that time, we can wait for fellow Taoist Long Mo to advance to the conjoint body realm before sparring with senior brother Heavenly Phoenix." This suggestion could be said to be killing two birds with one stone. As an outsider, Su Zimo did not have any foundation or prestige in Divine Phoenix Island to begin with. If he lost to Jing Sheng as well, no one would accept him. It did not matter even if Su Zimo won. If they wanted a fair fight, they would have to wait for Su Zimo to advance to the conjoint body realm. In other words, the matter of the young master could only be set aside for now. Su Zimo's gaze landed on the mighty figure of Heavenly Phoenix. Indeed, Heavenly Phoenix could keep his composure. From the beginning to the end, he had never expressed his opinion, as if he was completely uninvolved in the matter. Heavenly Phoenix Island to him, to the Heavenly Phoenix. But he did not to the Dragon Phoenix Island of Phoenix Island to say it to him. Su Zimo saying nothing to say it to say Heavenly Phoenix her. In his eyes, Jing Ming and Jing Sheng were like two dancing clowns. There was nothing to be afraid of. Su Zimo was fearless even if they went according to their suggestion. Heavenly to kill. Heavenly heavens to say. To Heavenly Phoenix Emo to Hefto the Heavenly Hefto of Heavenly Phoenix. Heavenly Phoenix, to have Heavenly Phoenix have Heavenly Phoenix. The Divine Phoenix Island Master's eyes turned to the nearby Heavenly Phoenix Supreme Elder. He asked, "Heavenly Phoenix, what do you say?" "It's all up to Island Master," Heavenly Phoenix said with a smile. The Divine Phoenix Island Master nodded. He looked at Jing Sheng and Jing Ming and expressionlessly said, "Your suggestions are quite good." "I guess so." Jing Ming laughed and said, "I think so too." The smile on the Heavenly Phoenix Almighty's face stiffened. He could hear the suppressed anger in the Divine Phoenix Island Master's voice. The Saber Sovereign has decreed that whoever can wield the Dragon Soul Saber will be the young master of Divine Phoenix Island. The Divine Phoenix Island Master's expression gradually turned cold. He slowly said, "You two are really too ambitious. Do you want to overturn the rules that the Saber Sovereign left behind?" Jing Ming and Jing Sheng also realized that something was wrong, and their hearts trembled. Jing Ming hurriedly said, "Island Master, please calm down. I didn't mean it that way." "How dare you two?" The Divine Phoenix Island Master suddenly shouted. Plop. Jing Ming and Jing Sheng were so scared that they immediately knelt on the ground, their faces pale. The might of the Island Master, and the wrath of a half-martial ancestor, were something that the two of them could not withstand at all. They were almost scared out of their wits and wet themselves. Su Zimo was silent. This scene was truly out of his expectations. Initially, he thought that even if he possessed the Divine Phoenix bone, he was an outsider after all, and it would be difficult for him to gain the recognition of Divine Phoenix Island within a short period of time. To think that the Divine Phoenix Island Master would stand on his side, without any hesitation, when he wielded the Dragon Soul Saber. The two of you are only at the Dharma characteristic realm, and yet, you want to disobey the orders of the Saber Sovereign and disrespect the young master of Divine Phoenix Island? I don't think there's any need for your cultivation. The Divine Phoenix Island Master said coldly. Island Master, please calm down. Please spare us this once, Island Master. Jing Ming and Jing Sheng were scared out of their wits and kowtowed repeatedly, begging for mercy. The other surrounding cultivators could not bear it either, and wanted to plead for mercy. However, they did not dare to, worried that they would be implicated as well. Greetings, young master. Right then a voice sounded from the side. The crowd turned towards the voice and could not help but be shocked. Even Su Zimo's eyes flashed with surprise. Nobody expected that the first person to say greetings, young master, would be a Heavenly Phoenix Almighty. What did that mean? Even a Heavenly Phoenix Almighty had lowered his head? At that moment, The Heavenly Phoenix Almighty arrived before Su Zimo and bowed slightly with cupped fists. "Greetings, young master. From today onwards, if you have any orders, I'll die 1,000 times without hesitation." Su Zimo reacted extremely quickly and smiled faintly. "Senior Heavenly Phoenix, you're too courteous. There's no need to be so polite." However, at the same time, Su Zimo was secretly shocked. This Heavenly Phoenix was truly something. He was even more frightening than he had imagined. In fact, when the Heavenly Phoenix Almighty asked about Daiyu's whereabouts, it had already alerted Su Zimo. When he said that Daiyu had already left, although the Heavenly Phoenix Almighty revealed disappointment and regret, he felt relieved of a burden. Of course, that was only Su Zimo's intuition and could not be accurate. Thereafter, another matter caused Su Zimo to be even more wary of the Heavenly Phoenix Almighty. His epiphany process was seemingly unintentionally interrupted by the Heavenly Phoenix Almighty. If that action was unintentional, it would be fine. If it was intentional, after that, the Heavenly Phoenix Almighty wanted Emoing to leave. However, Emoing did not agree. This action seemed like nothing much. However, if one connected it to what happened later, it was worth thinking about. Later on, the Heavenly Phoenix Almighty wanted to bring Su Zimo to the Dragon Soul Hall. Subduing the Dragon Soul Saber was extremely dangerous. The slightest mistake could cause one to be severely injured. It was impossible for the Heavenly Phoenix Almighty not to know this. However, what he said was out of good intentions. This suggestion was indeed rejected by Emoing. However, Su Zimo also wanted to take a look at the Dragon Soul Saber. So he went with the flow and agreed, resulting in the scene earlier. The reason why Su Zimo felt that the Heavenly Phoenix Almighty was a little terrifying was because of this. From beginning to end, the Heavenly Phoenix Almighty did not reveal any hostility towards him. His actions on the surface were completely out of good intentions. After all, everything just now was just Su Zimo's conjecture. There was no evidence at all. Now, the Heavenly Phoenix Almighty took the initiative to lower his head and acknowledge him as young master. If the Heavenly Phoenix Almighty was sincere, it would mean that Su Zimo was narrow-minded and that he had been overthinking previously. If he had other motives, this person was too tolerant. Chapter 1338. In fact, there was a moment earlier when Su Zimo even had killing intent towards the Heavenly Phoenix Mighty Figure. If the Heavenly Phoenix Mighty Figure had taken the initiative to challenge him, that would prove that his speculations were true. He would naturally attack in the midst of the battle. Even if he did not kill the Heavenly Phoenix Mighty Figure, he would cripple the latter. Unfortunately, the Heavenly Phoenix Mighty Figure did not express his stance. He merely stood at the back and allowed the two cultivators, Jing Ming and Jing Sheng, to step forward. Right from the beginning, he did not say a single word. Right now, while the other cultivators were hesitating, the Heavenly Phoenix Mighty Figure was the first to step forward and take the lead to acknowledge him as the young master. Therefore, even if Su Zimo felt that the Heavenly Phoenix Mighty Figure had other plans, he had no evidence. All of these were just his conjectures and feelings. If it was any other ordinary cultivator, they would probably be moved to tears of gratitude and have infinite trust towards the Heavenly Phoenix Mighty Figure when they saw him take the lead to acknowledge him as the young master. However, Su Zimo had barged his way through the cultivation world and experienced too many bloodbaths and schemes. He trusted his intuition. Therefore, he had always been wary of the Heavenly Phoenix Mighty Figure. Furthermore, now that the Heavenly Phoenix Mighty Figure had taken the initiative to lower his head, Su Zimo would not let his guard down at all. Instead, he would become even more wary. What are you guys waiting for? Greet the young master. The Heavenly Phoenix Mighty Figure turned around and looked at the many Divine Phoenix Island cultivators not far away, reminding them loudly, "Greetings, young master." Many cultivators reacted and bowed one after another. Emoing was delighted and smiled as well. He cupped his fists towards Su Zimo. "Greetings, young master." "Heavenly Phoenix, well done." The Divine Phoenix Island Lord nodded slightly, praising the Heavenly Phoenix Mighty Figure's actions. Initially, There was a high chance that an intense conflict would break out on Divine Phoenix Island, and it might even turn into an internal battle. Now that the Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure had taken the initiative to lower his head, it was equivalent to resolving the conflict. Island Lord, I have a presumptuous request. The Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure knelt down and said, Heavenly Phoenix, you don't have to do this. Divine Phoenix Island's Island Master was overjoyed that a battle had been averted. He quickly waved his sleeves and helped the Heavenly Phoenix Supreme Elder up. The Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure said in a deep voice, although Jing Ming and Jing Sheng made a huge mistake, it was unintentional after all. You want to plead on their behalf? The Divine Phoenix Island Master frowned. No. The Heavenly Phoenix Almighty said sincerely, I know. Island Master, just now, when you said that you would cripple their cultivation, you were just saying it out of anger. I want to accept the punishment for the two of them. Island Master, please be merciful and give them a chance to turn over a new leaf. It's not easy for them to cultivate to the Dharma characteristic realm with thousands of years of cultivation. Jing Ming and Jing Sheng were moved to tears. They kowtowed to the Heavenly Phoenix Supreme Elder and Divine Phoenix Island's Island Master, sobbing uncontrollably. Su Zimo was silent. It had to be said that for a Heavenly Phoenix Supreme Elder to have such prestige on Divine Phoenix Island, it really wasn't a fluke. In this, Heavenly Phoenix Major Power played a trick. He did not plead directly for the Divine Phoenix Island Master to let Jing Ming and Jing Sheng off. Instead, he suggested that he accept the punishment for Jing Ming and Jing Sheng. What was the identity of a Heavenly Phoenix Major Power? He was a conjoint body mighty figure with a Divine Phoenix bone. Furthermore, even if he wasn't the young master, his status in Divine Phoenix Island was extremely high and others could not compare to him. There was no way the Divine Phoenix Island Master would punish the Heavenly Phoenix Major Power severely for his suggestion. Indeed, the Divine Phoenix Island Master looked at the Heavenly Phoenix Major Power deeply and said, Since that's the case, go to the South Sea horizon and face the wall. Thank you, Island Master. The Heavenly Phoenix Major Power smiled gently. This punishment could already be considered very minimal. The Divine Phoenix Island Master turned to Mo Ing. I'll leave the young master's accommodation, palace and daily chores to you. Yes. Mo Ing nodded. As a saber attendant, Mo Ing would be her master whoever wielded the Dragon Soul Saber. The Divine Phoenix Island Master turned and left. Young master, I have to face the wall at the South Sea horizon, and can't be ordered around for the time being. Please don't blame me. The Heavenly Phoenix Major Power said apologetically. I won't. Su Zimo smiled faintly. Right then, the voice of the Divine Phoenix Island Master sounded from outside Dragon Soul Hall. Everyone of Divine Phoenix Island, listen up. The Dragon Soul Saber already has a master. Long Mo, the young master of Divine Phoenix Island. Everyone of Divine Phoenix Island, from now on, you shall obey the orders of the young master and not disobey. Although the voice was not loud, it spread to every corner of Divine Phoenix Island. Every living being on Divine Phoenix Island knew one thing. The young master of Divine Phoenix Island had already been confirmed. It was not the Heavenly Phoenix Major Power they were familiar with, but a cultivator named Long Mo. Divine Phoenix Island was in an uproar. Suddenly, Su Zimo felt as though everything was surreal. After he escaped death through the void turbulence and arrived at Divine Phoenix Island, he became the young master of Divine Phoenix Island by accident, and even had a conjoint body mighty figure as his servant. What was even more frightening was that he was the young master of Divine Phoenix Island and could mobilize the power of an entire island. This could be said to be second only to one and above everyone else. Of course, up till now, Divine Phoenix Island should not know of his true identity. This matter could not be hidden, and would spread to Divine Phoenix Island sooner or later. If they knew that he was Tao Lord Araki Takashi, who was hunted down by the immortal, Buddhist and fiend sects, and had a feud with the primordial races, who knew what they would think? Strip him of his position as young master? Those were hard to say. No matter what, since he was already here, he might as well make the best of it. At the very least, It was not a bad thing to become the young master of Divine Phoenix Island for now. Furthermore, Su Zimo had the opportunity to cultivate the Tidal Manual and Sea Calming Manual on Divine Phoenix Island. If he could comprehend something and find an opportunity to enter the conjoint body realm, there was a chance. At that time, even if Divine Phoenix Island could not accommodate him, he would have the strength to protect himself and leave this place. "Young master, let's go," Emoing said. "I'll bring you to take a look at your residence. It's also a good opportunity to head out and let the cultivators on the island greet you." "Yes." Su Zimo nodded and left side by side with Emoing. In the Dragon Soul Hall, the two cultivators, Jing Ming and Jing Sheng, gradually calmed down after surviving the calamity. They came before the mighty figure of the Heavenly Phoenix and bowed deeply. "Senior brother Heavenly Phoenix, we'll definitely remember your kindness. Get up, it's just a small matter." The Heavenly Phoenix mighty figure smiled gently. Thereafter, his eyes landed on Su Zimo's back view in the distance and narrowed gradually. His gaze was deep and no one knew what he was thinking about. Under Emo Ying's lead, Su Zimo circled around Divine Phoenix Island once more. This time round, most of the cultivators on Divine Phoenix Island already knew him. Many cultivators looked at him with deep curiosity. Some of the ladies of the sea race rolled their beautiful eyes and pointed at Su Zimo from afar, smiling secretly with blushing cheeks. "What are those cultivators doing?" Su Zimo pointed to the seaside not far away and asked curiously. Over there, some reefs were exposed on the surface of the sea, with some cultivators seated on them. Their sabers were placed horizontally on their knees as they looked at the sea. No one knew what they were doing. "They're comprehending," Emoing explained. Back then, the Saber Emperor comprehended the Tao by the seaside and created the Tidal Manual and Sea Calming Manual. Those cultivators also want to follow the footsteps of the Saber Emperor back, then to comprehend that state of mind. Chapter 1339. Comprehending the Tao by the Beach? Su Zimo nodded to himself. Indeed, coming to Divine Phoenix Island and witnessing the majestic waves of the ocean with his own eyes, and sensing the boundless power of the heaven and earth, was extremely helpful in comprehending the Saber Emperor's inheritance. For the next few days, Su Zimo wandered around Divine Phoenix Island and headed to the Saber Tao Inheritance Palace to comprehend the inheritance left behind by the Saber Emperor. It had to be said that the Saber Emperor was truly magnanimous and treated all cultivators of Tianhuang Mainland and Divine Phoenix Island equally. The Tidal Manual and Sea Calming Manual of Divine Phoenix Island were the same as what Su Zimo had learned. The Saber Emperor did not hide anything from the inheritance left behind in the Saber Mountain Spirit Sea. After that, Su Zimo arrived at the beach and sat on a reef. The place he chose was behind his palace, and it was extremely quiet. There were no other cultivators by the beach, and no one would disturb him. Su Zimo sat on the reef by the beach every day and watched the clouds, tides rise and fall as the waves surged. He comprehended the mysterious changes within and practiced continuously with his saber. Initially, he swung his saber extremely frequently. Every day, he would slash thousands or even tens of thousands of times. However, as time passed by, the number of times Su Zimo swung his saber decreased. Eventually, there would be a long gap between each time he swung his saber. However, the saber intent released with each slash was increasingly terrifying and sharp. The saber intent of the first 4 stances of the Sea Calming Manual was close to perfection. However, Su Zimo still did not have any clue about the final stance, Sea Calming. That stance was the true essence of the Sea Calming Manual. On this day, it was raining cats and dogs with lightning. On the surface of the ocean, waves surged and rumbled endlessly, as if the apocalypse was about to destroy everything. Su Zimo was swinging his saber by the beach when he caught sight of a small boat floating on the surface of the ocean in the distance. The boat was like a tiny speck of dust that could be engulfed at any moment in this torrential storm and raging ocean. There was a fisherman on the small boat. He wore a green bamboo hat and a green straw cape, and he swayed in the waves as if he would fall into the sea at any moment. Su Zimo swept it with his divine sense and couldn't help frowning slightly. The fisherman was only a mortal. On Divine Phoenix Island, there were also many common fishermen like this. It was unknown how long the fisherman had been struggling in the waves, but he had managed to hold on until now. When he floated to this place, Suzimo saw him. Suzimo prepared to get up and save the fisherman. At this moment, the fisherman on the boat suddenly took out a huge fishing net and threw it into the turbulent sea. Suzimo's pupils contracted rapidly. The raging waves and the roaring sea suddenly calmed down. All the wind and waves calmed down in an instant. The surface of the sea was abnormally calm, as if it had been frozen. There were no waves at all. Even the sky had cleared up. Clouds floated in the sky for thousands of miles, and the blue sea and sky reflected each other's splendor. This scene was way too shocking. Even with Suzimo's strength, he could not do this. This was already changing the momentum of heaven and earth. This was probably what it meant to be omnipotent. However, this inconspicuous fisherman had merely scattered a fishing net and caused the entire sea to calm down, forcefully changing the weather of heaven and earth. Suzimo's expression changed in deep thought. Sea calming, Suzimo murmured softly. Although the fisherman seemed to be scattering a fishing net, what he released was indeed the concept of the sea calming stance. This was a true expert. Suzimo was secretly shocked. Even he couldn't see through this expert's cultivation. In a flash, Suzimo arrived at the seaside and bowed deeply to the fisherman on the small boat. Greetings, Senior. I am Suzimo. I saw you comprehending the Tao by the seaside the past few days. Your comprehension is not bad. Raising his head, the fisherman glanced at Suzimo and laughed heartily. The fisherman was unshaven and slovenly. He was no different from the mortal's fisherman of Divine Phoenix Island. Suzimo had not expected that he would be watched for so long without noticing at all. Unfortunately, it's impossible to comprehend the sea calming stance by the seaside. The fisherman shook his head. Please enlighten me, Senior. Suzimo bowed once more with a respectful expression. The fisherman said, if you want to stabilize the sea, you'll have to enter the sea and experience the vast power in the depths of the sea personally. What can you comprehend by watching the tides rise and fall by the seaside? If you want to stabilize the sea, you'll have to enter the sea first. Suzimo murmured softly, seemingly enlightened. Although those words were simple, Suzimo felt as though they contained the essence of the great Tao that could simplify the complicated into the simple. The more he pondered, the more he could understand the endless mysteries within. By the time Suzimo came back to his senses, the fisherman had already steered the boat into the depths of the sea, while singing a fisherman's song, almost disappearing. May I know Senior's title? Suzimo shouted hurriedly. Smoky Wave Guest. A moment later, the fisherman's voice drifted over. In the blink of an eye, the fisherman had already disappeared into the smoke. Just now, everything that happened seemed like a dream. Earlier on, it was a storm with lightning flashing and thunder rumbling. Now the skies were clear and calm. Emoing, just now, do you recognize that fisherman? Suzimo turned around and said to Emoing. Ever since he wielded the dragon soul saber, Emoing had always been by his side, and was almost inseparable. He comprehended the Tao by the seaside every day, and Emoing followed closely behind. What fisherman? Emoing was stunned for a moment with a blank expression. Suzimo pointed in the direction where the fisherman just now appeared and said, Didn't you see the fisherman just now? He even said a few words to me. No, young master and I are the only ones here. Emoing shook his head. Furthermore, this sea region is a forbidden ground behind young master's palace. Cultivators of Divine Phoenix Island are not allowed to enter casually. This time round, it was Suzimo's turn to be stunned. He was certain that he had not seen wrongly. As a conjoint body mighty figure, Emoing could not have seen wrongly. In other words, the methods of the Smoky Wave Guest had already reached an unfathomable level, and had even surpassed Suzimo's understanding. Impressive. Suzimo muttered to himself and turned to Emoing. I'm preparing to enter the sea to comprehend the Tao. There's no need for you to follow me. With that said, Suzimo leaped into the deep sea with the dragon soul saber, heading towards the bottom of the sea. If it was any other cultivator, Even if it was the Dharma Daojun, their strength would definitely be suppressed in the deep sea, and they would feel uncomfortable. However, Suzimo did not feel that way. Dragons were adept at water to begin with, and it was not a problem for them to stir up trouble and overturn rivers and seas. After the dragon's true bodies entered the sea, they did not feel any discomfort and swam towards the bottom of the sea without slowing down. Initially, Emoing was chasing Suzimo into the deep sea as well. However, her movement speed was affected by the seawater. Initially, she could still see Suzimo's figure. The deeper she dived, the greater the pressure of the seawater. Before long, she lost track of Suzimo completely. You're tuning in to the Limei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.